ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's Untethered Live Politi-tics on a Saturday night, and I'm your host, Jake Johnson. Tonight, we have a studio gremlin in Studio C. Yes, I came home and everything was clean, and also nothing worked. So there's that. So, however you want to look at it. But I apologize for blowing my nose right into your face. I didn't mean to. I didn't know my microphone was on. It was not in the condition I left it in. But it is clean, which is a beautiful thing. And I appreciate that very much. Amanda says, hi, Untethered Live family. Good to see you all. Happy Saturday. I hope everyone is good. Hi, Jake. How are you tonight? A little confused, flustered, stuffed up, and happy. It's quite the combination of flavors going on. All of the above. How are you? Debbie says, happy Saturday to all. Debbie, you're first in chat. You get the gold star, my dear. Congratulations if this is your first one. I don't remember giving you one before, but I'm sure you did. But if you got one, good. If you didn't, then you can put this one on your mantelpiece and tell your grandkids how you fought the liberal army to get it. It's wonderful. Amy Elizabeth says, darn it, Amanda. I wanted to be first in chat. How you doing? Well, Debbie beat you to it. Amanda works here, so she's never first in chat. Amy Elizabeth says, even Debbie beat me. Well, Debbie deserves it. She did a good job. She got here on time. Congratulations to you both. And here's your gold star, Debbie. You earned it. Amy says, hey, Jake, Amanda, and Debbie. And hi to you. How are you? How are things? How's the weather? Are you doing okay? Is your son doing okay? A lot of questions. It's a lovely hot cup of coffee here right off the bat. Thank you to the people that provide the coffee for the show. This is a regular cup of Joe, you know. That's the way I like it for show. Don't you want to have a cup with me? Talk about politics and other things? If so, go to the kitchen, pour up a nice hot cup of brew, and let's sit down and talk about it. If you find yourself in the incomprehensible condition of not owning a coffee cup, I can fix that. There's one in the description below. I recommend the first one. It has my face on it. It is fantastic. However, there are lots of options down there, including but not limited to stainless steel tumblers, the big ones and the little ones. They have locking lids. They are stainless steel, not aluminum. They hold your coffee hot for hours. They look great on a coffee table. They have an Untethered Live Bible Study logo on the front and all my platforms on the back. And they are a wonderful shade of black and blue, which is how coffee should be. Get one while supplies last. Also, like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chats are available in the chat box if you want to show a little bit of love, if you want to put a little change in my pocket and go jang-a-lang-a-lang, if you want to BJ, you can do that right over there. Or hit that CashApp $ jakejohnsonband, which is also greatly appreciated. One last thing. If you would love to have a place you could hang out with everybody outside of the YouTuberverse, outside of their oppressive censorship and me misreading and misinterpreting everything you write down. If you'd like to have a place where you can share pictures, videos, texts, and chats with all of your friends, newfound and otherwise, you can do that over at facebook.com/UntetheredLiveFamily. It's all one word. The link is in the chat, and I really do appreciate you showing up over there and helping us make that a platform too. Now back to the show. Amy says, hey, Jake and Amanda and Debbie. I read that one. Amanda says, hi, Debbie. And hi, Amy. Amy says, brewing some fresh coffee? Nice. Debbie says, geez, Amy, it's not my fault you're slow. It's not my fault you is slow. Right on. And Amanda says, already did that. The coffee thing. Yes, that's where the coffee comes from. And thank God for that. Amanda says, LOL, Debbie, I'm a simple man to please, really. It don't take much. Cup of coffee, a back rub, I'm good. Don't need nothing. Except for, listening to me talk. That's always a thing. Amanda says, LOL, Debbie, and Amy says, yep, you exhaust me. Who? Amy says, I made sausage, gravy, and biscuits and scrambled eggs and hash browns for dinner. I also had breakfast for dinner. It was fantastic. We had egg sandwiches and pork chops. Delicious. A little unconventional, but wonderful. Amy says, what did you ladies have for dinner? And Jake eats whatever Amanda gives him. That's why I didn't ask him. This is true. I do eat whatever the missus puts down because I'm not stupid. And I know how to pick my battles. Debbie said steak, grilled onions and peppers, fajitas and chips and salsa and guacamole. Very nice. A little Mexican flavor tonight, huh, Deb? Amanda said we had pork chops and egg sandwiches. Yes, and it was good. Amy says, yummy on both counts. Liked, shared, and invited some friends. Excellent. Well, I'm glad, and I hope your friends show up. Maybe they'll be our friends. That would be nice. Amanda says, we both had breakfast on the brain for dinner. Sounds like we all did. LOL, quick and easy. Works for me. Right on. And yes, he eats whatever I cook, but I try to make all the stuff he likes. Yes, she does make the effort. That being said, if she puts something down that I detest, I'm going to eat it and keep my mouth shut because, again, I'm not stupid. Amy Elizabeth says, Amanda, you're a good wife to Jake. Yes, she is. Don't be fooled, though. Yes, while I am the prickly bastard you see before you, on a general basis, this is real. I'm not a character, although I do have an act. I'm a good husband to her, too. I do have levels of prickliness. Or I will let her say that. Amanda says, oh, thanks, Amy. I try to be. He's a good man, so it's worth my while. Or I make it worth it. Or it makes it worth it. Being a good man makes it worth it. Thank you. See, I told you she'd say it. Patty Donahue says, hello. Hello, Patty. How are you, sweetheart? Welcome to the show. Hope you're doing well in Tennessee. Hey, rambling boy, why don't you settle down? LA ain't your kind of town. There ain't no gold and there ain't nobody like me. I'm the #1 fan of the man from Tennessee. Amy says, hi, Patty. And Patty says, hello, ladies. White power and roses. Or whatever that means. Amanda says, LOL. Well, it was clean. It was driving me crazy. And I'm sorry for messing things up and turning things on and off. That's all right. I won't complain. You cleaned my desk. It was lovely. Thank you. I worked very hard, so little things like that escape me from time to time. It's wonderful to have somebody to back me up. And I know how to turn it back off, so it's okay. As long as you don't go deleting things off my computer by accident, we're good. Or spilling things on it, because that thing's expensive. It's almost worth more than the house is. Patty says, what's going on in the world? Well, the media is largely being made a fool of by Trump. FBI Director James Comey might be going to jail for seashells. Yeah, pretty much that's it. A foreign country gave the United States a gift and everybody's freaking out as if they gave it to Trump, like he's going to take it with him when he leaves. And they said, how dare you accept gifts from other countries? You mean like the Statue of Liberty? I'm just asking for a friend. Sharon Tyler, hi in chat. Hello, Sharon Tyler. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? How did you find us? And how can I convince you to stay and hit that subscribe button? Amy says, the weather is fine today. I posted pictures of the change in the area, or of the damage in the area. Yeah, I saw some of those pictures. Debbie says, I will tell my grandkids of the day I beat Amy. That's right. Sue Wood says, hi. Hi, Sue. Welcome to the show. Come on in. Who are you? Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you find us? And what can I do to convince you to hit that subscribe button? Again. Amanda says, hi, Sharon, welcome. And hi, Sue, welcome. And Amy says, hi, Sharon, glad you made it. Heart. Oh, she's a friend of yours. Enough said. Amy says, Susie, glad you accepted my invite. Make yourself comfortable, dear. Right on. Sharon says, Amy, was this your invite? Yes. Yes, it was. Aaron, what's up, my brother? He says, kapow. I kicked the chat door open. Like putting swinging doors in the White House, and you're Ronald Reagan, only you got a Duke, John Wayne outfit on, so you walk in and you go, hey, I'm back and I'm pissed off. I hear you. What's up, buddy? Amy Elizabeth says, yes, Sharon, I'm happy you made it. Amanda says, hi, Amy's friends, and welcome in. Make yourselves at home and enjoy. That's right. We talk about everything here. Whatever is on your mind, we will go down that rabbit hole. This is a show about you. I'm just the middleman. I like having conversations with people, so converse. Amy says, hi, Aaron. Sue says, never been here. Amy invited me. Well, I'm glad you're here now, and you're never going to leave. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully you'll never leave, but it'll be your choice. Aaron says, yo, Amy, comedy legend. She is quite funny, isn't she? By the way, do you guys remember me bringing up nonchalantly last night that in the previous iteration of the world, 4 of my videos got removed for talking about the very thing we were talking about. But since things have slacked up and people are, letting people be free again, let's see how it goes. Do you remember me saying that? I woke up this morning to a ad suitability strike. They didn't quite remove it yet. It's under review, which means no money can be made on that video until they decide what I said was legitimately advertiser friendly. How about that? I knew it would happen. Amanda said, hello, Aaron. And it wasn't even a political night. Imagine that. Amanda says, good groceries too, LOL. Oh, yeah. Amy Elizabeth says, did you catch any sharks today, Aaron? That's a good question. Did you catch any sharks? And if so, how? And if so, what did you do with them? And if you say one's in your bathtub, I'm coming to Florida. Because you're the kind of guy I want to party with. Aaron said, no, they ran from me. But I did get a Jack Corville. I don't know what that is. Sounds like a dog, though. It was the dog. Did you catch a dog? Is it a Jack Russell Corville by any chance? A dog with an attitude, maybe? Amanda said, nice, Aaron. Aaron says, talk to a man about God and taught a young kid to fish. And I gave him a fishing pole. Aaron, you are a good man, sir. Thank you for doing that, by the way. I don't know if he said thank you, but I'll say it on his behalf. Thank you for taking time with a young person and teaching them a valuable skill. Because you know what they say, give a man a fish and he'll eat fish for a day. But teach a man to fish, and you'll always have somebody to blame when you run out of beer. Or something like that. Amanda said, nice, Aaron. And Amy says, Jack Corville? See, she thinks it's a dog, too. Amanda says, that's awesome, Aaron. And Aaron says, Jack Corville. Again. Are we talking about a dog with spiky hair? What is it? Amy says, awesome, Aaron. And Amanda says, the Jack Corville, Carinix hippus, is a pugnacious-looking schooling fish found in the Gulf of Mexico and South Carolina waters. But those are 2 opposite sides of the United States, just so you know. Which means they're found everywhere. They're also known as canal tuna, yellow caravel, or crevalle, rather, yellow crevalle, or common jack. So basically, trash tuna. Got it. Trailer park tuna. It's in Florida. It's a trailer park tuna. Why didn't you just say that? Aaron says, he was a nice kid with a soft, useless dad. It's a good thing you were there to teach him to fish, because his dad would never have. Where'd it go? With a soft, useless dad, and I wasn't going to stand by and do nothing. Well, you did a good job. And if you talk to him about God, you did a doubly good job. You should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. Linda Davis, good evening all in chat. Hi, Linda. How are you, sweetheart? Welcome to the show. Come on in. Take your shoes off, wiggle your toes. Tonight's going to be about you. I don't know why I'm being so effervescent. It's just, I guess it's a full moon. Amanda says, well, you did good, Aaron. You did. And Amy says, last time I went fishing, I ended up at urgent care with a hook stuck in my arm. That's not where that goes. The last time I went fishing, I ended up with an elbow in my jaw because I forgot to check my oil. Just so you know. I was about 14. Aaron says, also, can a bridge dunk it? I don't know what those words mean. Also, can a bridge dunk it? Sure. I don't know what that means. Are you talking about fishing off of a bridge? I'm sure that was a joke, but I didn't get it, so help me. Amanda says, hi, Linda Hun. You're doing good. Or are you doing good? Sling. Amy Elizabeth says, hi, Linda. And Amanda says, ouch, Amy. The hook in the arm thing. Yeah, I got a spider bite on my arm. Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? It's right there. Can't do it that way. Nope. There you go. Spider bite. There were no hooks involved. I just thought I'd point it out. Aaron says, I could have got it out. You push it through past the barb and cut it and then pull it out. And that's how you do it. Correct. If you go the other way, you're taking a lot of skin and muscle with you. That's also how you get an arrow out if you get a shot with an arrow, by the way. Once you're already halfway there, you got to commit to the bit. If you get shot with an arrow, you have to commit to the bit. If it's just sticking in your chest muscle, you got to push it all the way through the lung and the chest and the cavity and everything. Because coming out, it's going to cause a lot of damage. The only way to get it out is to go all the way through. Just so you know. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. Or, go to the emergency room and let them put you asleep and cut you open and take it out. A scar's better than a ripped muscle. But if you don't have an emergency room, it's got to go all the way through. Linda Davis says, hi, ladies. And Batshit Crazy's here. What's up, Batshit? Nice to see you, buddy. How you doing? How's the world treating you? Amy says, an onlooker cut the barb off, but it was kind of deep. I bet. I've had the hook thing before, like in my arm or I don't remember where it was years and years ago, but I remember getting hooked. Maybe it might have been my finger it was hooked in. I can't remember. Or maybe the palm of my hand. Either way, I remember having to get it cut and pulled out, wherever it was. Sharon Tyler says, Amy is my dear friend. Oh, that's wonderful. She's my dear friend also. Hopefully we'll get along equally as wonderfully, as dearfully, as hopefully. Amanda says, hi, Batshit Crazy. And Amy says, hi, Bats. Linda says, hi, Bats. If I feel like there's a bat in my belfry. Aaron says, got to get them pliers, Amy, and yank that SOB out. Right on. Amy says, you're special to me too, Sharon. Oh, you guys are so sweet. It makes my teeth hurt. Amy says, this is a great group of people in this chat. I'd like to think so. We've been working on it for about 10 years, and we got a really good group of people. So we welcome you to it. Sharon says, I'm down in Georgia working as a camp host at a military post. Well, I'm from Georgia, so we have something in common. What part of Georgia are you? Are you in Warner Robins by chance? Sorry, my chat jumped. Amanda says, nice, Sharon. Jake is from Georgia. I told you. Aaron says, handshakes and salutes. And Aaron says, Sharon. Amy says, living and loving the RV life. Aaron lives in one too, Sharon. Right on. Sue Wood says, I'm a seamstress from Las Vegas. We'll see how this goes. A seamstress from Las Vegas. That's got to have some stories behind it. Sharon says, hi, Aaron. I love RV life. I have never had RV life. I have had a trailer, or what do you call a fifth wheel. Isn't that what you call those that hook on the back of a truck? I've had one of those before, but never an RV. Amy Elizabeth says, Sue makes beautiful, historically correct dresses. Oh, that's awesome. Do you do like Southern Belle dresses and the one with the iron hoops in it and all that stuff? It's pretty cool. Petticoats and all that. That's a great job. Do you do that for movies or just for people collecting? Aaron says, hold on. Aaron says, that's what that PayPal is for. We stick it to them. I don't know what you're referring to. But thank you. My truck has a new tire. Appreciate that. Very much. Aaron says, nice suit. Jake and I used to wear tailor-made shirts back in the day. Yeah, but it really don't count. My mama made them, so. Fab Daddy, what's up, buddy? He says, Comey ain't going to jail for 8647 in Seychelles, just like Trump called for Liz Cheney to look down a firing squad. Nothing going to happen. Well, first of all, he did not call for Liz Cheney to look down a firing squad. He was calling her a hypocrite for her behavior, and he was pointing it out that she wouldn't stand there and then put other people in that position. Second of all, the idea is not to arrest James Comey for the 8647, even though he knew exactly what that meant. He is the previous director of the FBI, so he knows what the codes are. Here's the idea, and I'll tell you what it is. Write it down that I said so and try to stay with me. I'll speak slowly so you can grasp it. They're going to force James Comey into an interview where they ask him a bunch of probing questions and cause him to become defensive, to where he will immediately go out on the circuit, The View, CNN, MSNBC, all of that, ABC, and he's going to go, you have to follow the letter of the law. What I did was technically not illegal. It is under free speech. We are Americans. We follow the letter of the law. He's going to emphasize that point. Write it down that I said so. Stay with me now. He's going to go around the country, anybody that'll listen, defending himself by saying we have to follow the letter of the law. And what I did was technically not illegal, so they can't do this. And then the Trump DOJ is going to say, you're right. You remember the whole thing you did with Hillary Clinton? Let's follow the letter of the law, and then they're going to put him in jail for that. Because what he did there was 100% illegal. Write it down that I said so. That's what it's going to come down to. How you doing, Fab? Nice to see you. Amanda says, hi, Fab. And Amy says, hi, Fab. And Aaron says, aye, party. Party with Jake, that would be a dream. I don't know about all that, buddy. I'm an old man, remember. I did party for a living, but I've just about partied out. Amy Bordeaux is here. Hey, all. Hey, Amy. How are you, sweetheart? Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Amanda says, hi, Amy, too. Linda says, hi, Amy B. And Amy says, hi, Amy B. Hey, buddy. TM. Batshit Crazy says something in hieroglyphics. And then, hey, folks. How you doing, buddy? Batshit is a special breed of person. He communicates phonetically. And it's a little bit disturbing, but we get through it. Aaron says, who is Amy B? The other Amy. We have two Amy's. We have two Kevins. We have two of just about everybody. Amy says, how is the new horse, Amy B? You have a new horse? How's the old horse? Did you just forget about the old horse when you got the new one? What kind of person are you, Amy B? Floating Bus. Hello from Houston. What's your channel about? Well, welcome, Floating Bus. This channel is about you. Whatever you bring to the table, you will get back in spades or hearts. Whatever card game you like. Gin rummy, whatever. We talk about everything. Tonight is going to lean politically, but we'll probably end up somewhere in the spiritual realm. That's usually how it works. We do Bible study on Sunday and Monday. We hang out on Wednesday and Friday, and Saturday we do Politi-tics. That is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time goes live, and on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time we go live, and we talk about you. That's what everything here is about. Hope that helps. And welcome to the show. Come on in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know where you're from. Who are you? What do you do? And what can I do to convince you to stay and hit that subscribe button? Amanda says, and it's the Gulf of America, baby. That's right. Aaron says, it looks like mahi, but yellow and fast. Got it. Trash tuna. It's a trailer park tuna. That's what it is. I'm a trailer park tuna myself. I know a little something about it. Amanda says, hi, Floating. Welcome. I like the name Floating Bus. Amy says, welcome, Floating Bus. We just talk about stuff. Whatever. We'll go anywhere you want to go. If you bring it, we'll discuss it. I have a particular bent on reality. I have a particular worldview. I have a particular thing that I teach. You can be whoever you want to be. Nobody is discouraged to be who they are. However, if you want to argue, you better bring a good argument, because I'll argue with you. The only thing we ask is this. There's a lot of ladies in here. Keep it civil. Don't get too dirty. You can be risque without being dirty. Don't be disrespectful and be rude to the ladies. You can say whatever you want to me within reason. Just don't be disrespectful to the ladies. That'll get you kicked out of here quick. We do have a band hammer, and I will use it. Other than that, enjoy your stay. Talk about whatever you want. No subject is off limits. There are some that are taboo, though. Apparently. Fab Daddy says, do you think Trump will pardon Derek Chauvin, the guy that killed the black guy? Can't remember his name. Probably. What he did was a little excessive, but he did not kill that guy. That guy was dying already, and he died while in custody. Now, what he did do was excessive. I will give you that. He should be fined for that. He should be punished for that. He should even be fired for it. Spend the rest of his life in prison? No. And here's why. That's how they were trained to handle that situation. He was only doing what he was told to do by his superiors. The fact that they knew each other was a coincidence. You can't live in a small town and not know somebody and not run into them. Amy Elizabeth says, Amy B is Amy Bordeaux. Amy A is Amy Elizabeth. But you don't need to say A because she's the first one. Just say Amy, which starts with an A, so you don't need to say A. Make sense? Amanda says Amy B, Amy 2, Amy Bordeaux. Aaron, same person. We have another guy that comes in occasionally but hasn't been in a while, and sometimes his name is Cold Creek Croft, and sometimes it's MVTV, and sometimes it's a few other things that I can't remember right off the top of my head. But same guy. Aaron says, I know, but I don't see them. Make sure you're on live or all chat. Make sure it's not on top chat. Amy says, Fab, Trump can't pardon him. It's not a federal charge. Ah, well, there you go. There's the answer to that question. And Amanda says, make sure your chat is on all messages or live messages if you're on a computer. Right on. He's probably on his phone. Fab Daddy says, Trump did some good this last week in reducing drug prices. Not good, historical. Every single politician has promised that for the last 20 years. Trump is the only one that did it. So keep that square in your head. And by the way, what did they ask about the media? What's he going to do about another country giving him a plane? As if they were giving it to him. That's the way they're trying to spin it, like Trump's going to take it with him when he leaves. It's a gift to America. When Trump put it this way, when they hand you a putt, you say thank you and take the putt. You don't complain because you're going to end up missing the putt if you do it your way. Insist on paying for it. He said, what am I going to pay $400 million for a new plane? They're offering it to me. I'm going to take it. Thank you and move on. It's a gift to the country. And, of course, all of the liberals are going, you can't accept a gift from a foreign country? That's bribery. You mean like the Statue of Liberty? You realize that countries have been giving us gifts for a very long time. Most presidents accept those gifts. This is the only one we're making a big deal about, though. Just so you know. Trump is also, in case you didn't know, remember a couple of weeks ago when you were freaking out about the tariffs and how bad it was going to be? Well, China just caved, and now they're in line, and those tariffs have been dropped. And then egg prices and gas prices and food prices and drug prices and inflation prices have all gone down in the last 2 weeks. So, right again, Trump seems to be knowing what he's doing. And now they're talking about, well, he's going to put tariffs on movies. Well, first of all, you can't tariff a movie. Second of all, it was a tweet, not an executive order. Third of all, in case you haven't noticed, Trump always leads with something outlandish and impossible that freaks everybody out and gets them talking, and then he works them down to something that's negotiable, and then everybody's happy because he gets it done. That's called a tactic, and he does it all the time. So pay attention. Trump's not the bad president you think he is. Amy says, Amy B, you're invisible to Aaron. Well, you ain't got to put it like that. Sue Wood says, I got a brown recluse bite. It looks nasty. I don't know what kind of spider this is, but you can barely see it. But there it is on the top of my arm. It's not that bad. And I get a lot of them. I work at a place that has a bunch of little wood spiders and hobo spiders, if you know what that is. They look scary, but they really don't do anything. But I get occasional spider bites, and I don't ever see them do it. They're very crafty, these spiders. They're like ninjas. They always get me, but I don't know when they do it. I guess because I'm working, I ain't paying attention or whatever, but they get me all the time. Brown recluse ain't nothing to joke about. My mom got bit on the back of her leg by one on her calf muscle, and a big hunk of meat fell out, and there was a big hole in her leg for many years. It took her a long time to heal from it. Brown recluse. Take care of that thing. Aaron says, oh, I mean to say they called jacks bridge donkeys. Oh, got it. That makes more sense. Can a bridge donk it? Doesn't that make sense? So they're bridge donkeys. So like I said, they're trailer trash tuna. Got it. Amy says, spider bite. Ouch. Reminds me of a friend I know. A friend you know reminds you of a spider bite? That's a bad friend. Amanda says, Trump did a lot of good this week with all the deals he made with other countries and stopping the war. Yeah, there's that. Remember a couple of weeks ago when you were saying, I'd like to see Trump stop the war. He thinks he's going to stop it on day one. Well, it's day one and it ain't stopped. And I told you then, give it a little time. That was hyperbolic. That's what you do on a campaign trail. It takes time to make things happen. Well, what about all the hostages? They ain't released any of the hostages, and he said they were going to release them. They've released a few of them. It takes time. Watch him work. It's happening. Amy says, how is the wound, Susie? Yes, that's a good question. Aaron says, Sue, go to the ER. You need antibiotics. She may have. Fab Daddy says, do you think we should spend $25 to $45 million for Trump's birthday celebration? If you got it, sure, why not? What's wrong with that? $1 It's not a lot of money. They've been throwing around billions and trillions of dollars for the last 10 years, and you're worried about $25 million? That's couch change for these people. Sure. If you were the president of the United States, would you not want them to celebrate your birthday in fashion? Sure, why not? Aaron said, I'd rather them do that than send it to another country to fund a war that I don't believe in. I'd rather that, yes. Aaron says, and a venom neutralizer. Right on. Yeah, brown recluses are poisonous. Sue says, Amy, still the same. It doesn't look better and it doesn't look worse. Got it? Brenda Jimenez says, something that was retracted, probably because it was racist, and we don't play that game around here. Brenda, watch your mouth. That's your only warning. Amy Elizabeth says, we should spend $20 to $45 million on my birthday. I agree, 100%. I'd take a quarter of that. I'd be happy with a super chat. How about that? Amanda says, Sue, put a wet tea bag on it and let it sit for 30 minutes, like 3 times a day, and it will draw the poison out. Or the white lining of an egg will do that also, but usually that's for blood poison. I don't know if it'll work for a spider bite, but the white lining inside of an egg has drawing power. I'm not talking about the yolk. I'm talking about if you crack an egg carefully, there's a thing you can peel out of it, a little white piece of material. If you put that on thing with blood poison, it'll suck the poison out. So it might work for a spider bite. I don't know. Amanda says, thanks, Amy. I was typing. Amy says, try starting with hello, Brenda. That's a good way to start a conversation. Hi, right? My name is Brenda. What's your name? Fab Daddy says, Trump did not stop the Ukraine war, nor did he stop any war this week. You're wrong. He took away Syrian sanctions, which stopped a war. And nobody said anything about the Ukraine war. We said a war. I said, do you remember when you were talking about that? And by the way, he has stopped that war effectively. They are still fighting, but they're under a ceasefire right now. So it would be easier to say he affected the war in a positive direction. He hasn't ended it yet, but he has worked on it. And he is still working on it. And by the way, it's not Trump that's keeping it going. It's the other guy. And I don't mean Putin. Sue says, Aaron, one only needs those if infected. Right on. Aaron says, I'm not spending millions on nobody's birthday. Me either, because I don't have millions. Payne 1737 says, stop lying. Well, Payne, what have I lied about? First, start with that. I can't fix something if you don't tell me what it is. Sue says, is this where you go on Saturdays, Amy? And Payne says, bullshit, Trump didn't stop any wars. Well, you're wrong about that. So maybe you just aren't informed about what's going on all over the world. There's other places besides Ukraine. You know that, right? Amanda says, all these people with Trump derangement syndrome blows my mind. If you want to watch a good debate, watch between Tim Pool and Adam Conover. We just were watching that before the show. It's a very informative and telling version of events. You should check it out. It's very interesting. Amy says, yes, Sue, we usually don't have this many varying opinions. Well, I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinions. Like I said at the top of the show, I have a very particular way of looking at the world. My chat jumped. I got it. I have a very particular way of looking at the world, and I'm not requiring that you look at it the same way. If you have your own way of looking at it, to discuss. Grown people can talk about things. It jumped a lot. I apologize. I didn't even see it jump. All right, here we go. I'm getting there. Amanda says, better check again, Fab Daddy. Yeah, better look again. There's things going on you're not aware of, apparently. Amy says, Sue went to the doctor. Good. Sharon says, Fort Stewart. Ah, okay. Nice. Well, thank you for your service. Aaron says, nope, a brown recluse eats tissue and will go to the bone if left. Sure enough. Hinesville, Georgia. I hear you. I've got some kinfolks in Hinesville. Brenda says, I'm a strong Mexican woman. Good. You should be able to lift heavy things and everything, right? Welcome to the show, Brenda. Amy says, Fab needs to go to the doctor for that TDS, but we love him anyway. Right on. There's a good example right there. Me and Fab Daddy argue like cats and dogs, and that's good for discourse. We do not discourage that here. Nobody's ever going to tell you that you don't have a right to have your opinion. However, I'm a person with a microphone that talks for a living. I am going to talk at you in general malaise about my opinion also. Amy says, Fab needs... I read that one. Sue Wood says, Aaron, that depends on how it affects the individual. Right on. Amy says, welcome, Brenda. And Linda says, I know we pay for his Secret Service, but I'm pretty sure he spends his own money on his golfing things. Didn't he forego his pay as president? Also, yes, and still is. This time around, he did accept some money from Big Pharma. Why? Because they were suing him in every direction, and he was paying millions and millions of dollars out of his pocket just to stay out of jail for things that he did not do. A very serious political witch hunt. So this time around, he needed some extra cash for his campaign. Last time, he didn't take anybody's money. He paid for everything himself and came in quite under budget. Got a lot of TV for free by saying outlandish things that everybody freaks out about, which is why you don't like him now, probably. And no, nobody pays for his golfing. And by the way, just so you know, Trump has a plane that makes the Air Force One look like a little jet, little personal jet. Trump's plane is way better than Air Force One. So this gift that this other country is giving us, giving America, not Trump, is just a gesture of friendship. And it's going to be in the military. It's not going to be Trump's plane. He gets a free plane. He gets to ride in Air Force One as long as he's president. So whatever. But and Sue says, yes, that's one I do. I don't for myself and make money as a content creator. Cool. You have content? Well, if you'll put your link in chat, or if somebody, one of the moderators will put up your link, I'll send everybody here in your direction and check out what you got. Aaron says, get well soon, Sue. And Fab Daddy says, Trump derangement syndrome is questioning the BS, and that shouldn't be frowned upon. If you think that's what Trump derangement syndrome is, you have missed the boat. But no, questioning BS should not be frowned upon. And if you find any, you should point it out. Aaron says, Jake, the PayPal comment was about them not letting your videos make money. Right on. Well, that's what happened. We were talking about you know what, and they got me. Just like I said, I knew they would. So until they resolve it, which could be tomorrow or it could be 3 weeks from now, that video makes no money. None whatsoever. Christine Marshall, what's up, buddy? Christine said hi. How you doing, Christine? Nice to see you. Amanda says hi. And Brenda says tacos for everyone. Well, now that's something I can get behind. I like taco salad myself. Sue says, thanks, Aaron. And Amy says, Fab, there are two kinds of Trump derangement syndrome, Trump derangement and Trump devotional syndrome. Both are crazy. Agreed. Aaron says, what is TDA? Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. And Fab Daddy says, Trump derangement syndrome. And Amanda says that too. And Aaron says, I never heard that. Oh, there's a lot of it out there. Both ways. Amy says, yummy. We usually eat tacos on Sunday nights, Brenda. Sounds delicious. I make homemade guacamole. Nice. I've yet to find anybody makes homemade sour cream, though. That would be wonderful. They never give you enough sour cream. Aaron says, that sounds awful. It is. If you want to see evidence of it, go watch Tim Pool and Adam Conover debate stuff. It's a good show. I think it's called Culture Wars, the name of the show. I'm not sure, but I think that's it. Culture something. Amy Elizabeth says, hi, Christine. Aaron says, it would be cool just to enjoy company. Right on. Amy Berdeur says, hi, and thank you all. I'm listening and finishing chores. That's always good. And I am Amy, too. Christine says, heart. Amy says, two Johns. Two Johns, two Amy's, two a lot of us. Amy says, he's amazing. He who? Amanda says, a lot of the world has TDS, Aaron. LOL. Seems that way. And we added on, says Amy. Aaron says, finally, I can see your chats, Amy B. Patty says, only one Patty for now. Might be one coming down the pipe someday. But there'll only be one of you. Fab Daddy says, chatting hang pence is okay too. Hypocrites on both sides. No, chatting hang pence is not okay. Vera Lynn says, hi, Rachel. How are you, sweetie? Amanda says, only one Amanda and Banhammer. LOL. There's only one Amanda. That's a fact. Amy says, hi, Vera, a.k.a. Rachel. Amanda says, hi. Aaron says, Trump derangement syndrome just sounds like a bad thing to say. I had no idea people say this about each other. Oh, it's worse than that. Believe that. Walter Davis is in the house. What's up, Walter? Good evening, sir. And Walter says, good evening, all. How you doing, buddy? Long time no chat. Amanda says, hi, Walter. Floating Bus says, I'm liking the channel so far. Slam that sub button, but gotta go. Well, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the subscription. And come back and see us. I appreciate you being here. Go do what you got to do, but we'll be here 5 nights a week. And we'll talk about all kinds of things. Fab Daddy says, good to see you, Walter. Amy says, hey, Walter. And Aaron says, they should call it Gulf of Fishes or Dirty Gulf. Probably. But Trump wanted to make a statement. Put it in big gold letters, Gulf of America. And he almost spelled it with a U just to make a point, but they wouldn't let him do that. Amanda says, thanks, Floating Bus, and welcome in. Debbie says, was it Comey that said that Hillary did with the government software and server was technically wrong, but she didn't mean to, and that is why she was not being prosecuted? Yes. And that is what they're going to get him on. This whole thing about the 8647 is a ruse to let him hang himself. He's going to say the wrong thing because they're going to show his hypocrisy by saying we're going to prosecute him for some nonsense. He's going to come out and say, no. You have to follow the letter of the law. Do you hear me? The letter of the law. And DOJ is going to go, okay. Remember that Hillary Clinton stuff? You're going to jail. Watch and see. Write it down. I could be wrong, but I probably ain't. Aaron says, Floating Bus, thank you for coming. Linda Davis says, hi, Rachel, heart. Amy says, right, Debbie. And Vera Lynn says, peace. Floating Bus says, I own a bus transformed into an RV. That's cool. That's the way to stretch your dollar right there. It's great to travel in. I work as a high school teacher, and I teach American Sign Language. All right. That's awesome. Well, welcome to the show, Floating Bus. Amy Elizabeth says bleach bit or something. Yeah, there's a software that she used to wipe her phones with, but she had a server in her bathroom that was doing transactions outside of the knowledge of the government with classified information. And then she destroyed all of that to avoid being prosecuted for it. There's a lot of shady stuff going on in the government up until recently, which is why the witch hunt. Everybody thinks what the media tells them to think, that Trump's a bad guy and that we should hate him for his stupidity and all that. The real reason they're so after him is because he doesn't belong to them and they can't control him. And when he sees things that are wrong, he points them out. That's the problem. Watch and see. Aaron says, Rachel. Amanda says, that's awesome, Floating Bus. Yes, it is. Amy Elizabeth says, some of us live the RV life too, Floating Bus. We seem to have a bunch of those in here. That is fantastic. If I could get away with it, I would do that. I have too much computer and guitar gear to live in an RV. Walter says, hi, Jake, Amy, Fab, Floating Bus, Amanda, Aaron, Vera, Christine, Sue, Brenda, Sharon, and BSK. Thanks for subscribing, Floating Bus. I appreciate you. Vera says, Aaron, it is Rachel. No A. Amy says, just call me number 2. They call me Mr. Tibbs. And Vera says, Aaron, the original spelling in the Bible. Right on. But there is an A. Amy says, Amy too, smiley face. And Aaron says, I'm sorry about that. Aaron says, Rachel, like this? Right on. Walter says, Floyd was such a dirtbag. He once robbed a pregnant woman by holding a gun to her belly. That's terrible. Aaron says, oh, apparently. And Amanda says, correct, Aaron. Amy says, Floyd died from bad choices all the way around. I'm not saying that it was a good situation. I'm just not following along with the narrative that the news media has tried to push out and that everybody ran with. I don't think that's how it worked at all. And I really don't want to, get into an argument about George Floyd. Aaron says, okay, I get it right. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. You got it right enough. We knew who you were talking about. Amy B says, number 2 says, someone called me a deranged Karen, and I was so confused, but I'm going to wear it as a badge like a sheriff. Are you a deranged Karen? I think young people just say things. I don't think they have any thought behind it. Aaron says, the knee in his neck did not do him any favors. I'm sure it didn't. Again, I'm not suggesting that was the right thing to do. That's not what killed him. But I don't think race was the reason that happened. That's what I'm saying. I think there were other factors at play. That's all I'm saying. But I'm sure the knee in the neck was not pleasant. Amanda says, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Not referring to your husband, Amy. He didn't know. Floyd knew. Always get trolls when you have good shows. 194 views already, but 2 of them did not like the content. That's okay. Well, first of all, Virginia, you have to tell me what lies I have told and what BS I'm espousing before I can stop doing it. If you want to get into that conversation, try hello. I'll talk with you about it, and I'll allow you to say your piece, and then I will dismantle you and throw you out with the trash. But, your choice. Fab Daddy says, Trump is going to hand the plane to the Trump Library after leaving office. Oh, that's right. He ain't leaving office. 3rd term, 4th, and possibly 5th. Well, if you know anything, Fab Daddy, you know that's not possible. For more than one reason. The second most logical reason why that's not possible is he's 80 years old, or pushing it. He's not going to be around for 3 or 4 more terms. First one is it's unconstitutional, and he is a constitutional president. He's not going to do that. So, that's Trump derangement syndrome and action right there. That's not logical. That's not possible. That's not probable. That's something you heard on CNN. You never heard Trump say that unless he was joking about it. And the only reason he said it was because everybody else was saying it. Aaron says, but I do agree he was on drugs. He was on a lot of drugs. According to the coroner's report, he had enough fentanyl in his system to kill a horse. How he was alive at that moment is beyond me. My guess is he was in that drive-thru about to die when they pulled him over. He was in a drive-thru. He wasn't going anywhere. He was sitting there, and so they came up behind him. I think he probably would have died right there on the spot had they not intervened. That was a case of being at the wrong place at the wrong time for everybody involved. Amanda says, hi, Virginia, welcome. How about hi first? Good idea. Amy says, nope. I agree, Aaron. They should have administered Narcan, if anything. Chauvin failed to render aid to someone actively overdosing. Well, remember, he didn't know that he was overdosing. You got to understand from both perspectives. You can't look at this through a lens of race, because if you do, you miss vital information. That's the problem with race baiting, is you miss the details. If you pull someone over, you have no idea what's in that car or what's going on in that person's life. All you know is there's a suspicious vehicle, or for whatever reason he pulled him over, probably for sitting in a drive-thru and not ordering anything. I don't know. I think it was late at night. I don't know all the details. I'm spitballing here, so just bear with me. But when they tried to get him to leave, he caused a ruckus. And I don't know all the details about how that happened, but they ended up with him outside of the vehicle on the ground. And during that process is when he lost his life. My guess is he was on the way to losing it anyway. That's a guess. I don't know. But I know what the coroner's report said, and he did not die from a break in the neck. He did not die from suffocation. These are details that are important no matter how you feel about the situation, which is a completely different story, and you're allowed to have those feelings. But factually speaking, he died from an overdose of fentanyl, not from suffocation. Suffocation did not play a role in his death. That being said, they absolutely manhandled him and treated him harshly when it wasn't necessary. That's the problem with all of this. Otherwise, it was a perfectly ordinary stop. The problem is they acted out of sort with him, and that caused an uproar so that everybody on Earth missed the details of what happened. Trump is not a convicted felon, Payne. Trump is an accused felon. Those cases were overturned. Amanda says, hi, Payne, welcome. And he was not convicted. Aaron says, him calling for his mom just gets me. Yes, that's emotional. That's an emotional response. As an adult person, you have to know that sometimes emotions get the better of you, and that causes your thinking to go askew because you're thinking with your emotions, not with your logic. Those are two different operations. If you're thinking about it in computer terms, logic is one thing and emotion is another thing. They're not the same system, and both of them do different things for you. So the problem with this particular story is it got emotional real fast. And when emotions go high, logic goes low. I agree with you. That was a tough situation. And they absolutely acted out of sort. They should not have treated him that way. I'm not suggesting they should have. So there's three elements to this story. There is the reason they stopped him. There is how they acted while they stopped him, and there is his death. And those three things are separate things. You have to look at them separately. Amy says, I see him. I think you mean Aaron, right? Because he didn't see you. Amy says, hi, Virginia, welcome. No name calling, please. Right on. Last and only warning. Yeah, we don't need to be throwing ad hominems. Walter says, Floyd was suffocating because of the fentanyl he swallowed when he saw the cops coming because he was trying to dump counterfeit 20s on a store that did not want them. I don't know anything about that part of the story. I did hear something about it, but I'm not familiar enough with it to argue it. Maybe he was passing counterfeit 20s. I don't know. Virginia does not want to comply. Neither does Payne. Huh. Ever heard of Jimmy Carter? Or Joe Biden? Trump was not convicted of 34 felonies. Go do some research. He went to court because he was accused of 34 felonies, which was the same felony 34 times. Because it was a clerical error that he did not make himself. You didn't know that, though, I'm sure. Literally, a lawyer filled in roster with a word that was opposite what was actually happening, like business expense instead of I paid a hooker. That case did not go through. He is not a convicted felon. You are incorrect. You are leading with feelings, not logic. Amanda says, that was it, Virginia. Bye-bye. Aaron says, meth tuna. Haha. I like it. Meth tuna. That's good. Amy says, Fab has backup tonight. Yes. I'll take them all on with half my brain tied behind my back and one eye closed. Payne, you're not far behind. Trump was not convicted of sexual abuse. You're wrong. What he was in court for was a civil case, was an allegation of sexual abuse, and he was found liable for the allegation. No proof was ever stated that he did the thing, and he was not convicted of a crime. That's not how court works. Christine Marshall says, my wife's brother just went to the hospital in prison from a brown recluse bite. Wow. Well, God bless your wife's brother, and I hope he recovers. Amanda says, he was not convicted, he was charged. Right, there's a difference. Aaron says, oh, dang. It's getting hot in here tonight, folks. It'll be all right come tomorrow morning, though. Payne, what war are you referring to? Because I don't think you know what you're talking about, or what I'm talking about, for that matter. And I'm guessing you're very young, or, uneducated, one or the other. Amanda says, no, he was not convicted of any of it. No, he got away with that, if he ever did any of it. Fab Daddy says, how about Stephen Miller? The puppetus of law trying to rid habeas corpus. I don't even know what a puppetus is, but it sounds dirty. Aaron says, I don't know what that person said to get banned. Well, they're being dirty. They're saying things that shouldn't be said. Amy Elizabeth says, civil case, not felony charges. Facts matter. Absolutely. Payne says, yeah. You don't know what you're talking about again. Amanda says, they kept calling Jake a moron. Jake is a lot of things, but a moron ain't one of them. Christine Marshall says, his last call, he said his face is so loose and wrinkles from deflating. Wow. That sounds horrible. He got bit on his face? That's terrible. Well, I hope he's doing all right, and I hope he recovers from that without any major damage. Walter Davis says, Trump tried and is trying to stop the Russia-Ukraine war. He probably the only one. I agree. He is the only one trying to stop it. And the person that's keeping it going is Zelensky, not Trump or not Putin. Zelensky is the one causing the war to continue. All of the things are in place to stop that war. All he's got to do is sign off on it, and it's done. But he won't do it. So that'll tell you who's playing the long game here. The war that I was referring to was not the Ukraine war. It was a potential war that is not now going to happen. Amanda says, well, if you hate Trump so bad, leave the country. What did Biden do for us? Not a damn thing. Right on. Trump is taking money from the poor and giving it to TV or to the rich. That is incorrect, Payne. Where are you getting your information from? I'm guessing CNN, because that is incorrect. Trump hasn't taken any money for being president, and he's not giving money from the poor to the rich. That's stupid. Have you noticed the prices are going down on everything? How is that taking money from the poor and giving it to the rich? Aaron says, oh, yeah, no doing that, Amanda. Amy says, slow down, take a breath. Stop jumping around, Payne. Pick a topic. Right. I will gladly argue with you if you'll pick a topic. And also, lead with some common sense. Don't just repeat talking points, because that's not how you argue in the first place. That's not how you communicate in the second place. And that ain't going to win you any favors in the third place. If you want to have a conversation, have one. If you don't, bye-bye. You don't have to be here. This is a privilege, not a right. And everybody here came to talk about tonight diverse, touchy subjects. That's what tonight is about. We go through it every week. Sometimes people get angry. Sometimes people get heated. We always end as friends, because that is the point of discourse. That's how you learn, by talking about situations. If you can't do that, you don't belong here. Amy Bordeaux says, my neighbor has a poisonous snake farm. No joke. That's terrifying. Amy Elizabeth says, Amy B., I read that as Jake from State Farm. Aaron says, Amy B., I bet that's cool. If you like snakes, it's cool. If you don't, it's terrifying. Walter says, Trump volunteered and failed the physical for the flat feet. Biden got 4 deferments. Big difference. Right. Trump did not dodge the draft. He failed the physical, because in those days, you were required to be some kind of specimen to join the Army. It's not that way anymore. He would probably get in now if he joined now, unfortunately. And if he wore a wig, shoe in. And Trump went to military high school, by the way. He went to West Point, if that'll tell you anything. So it's not that he dodged the draft. He just wasn't eligible to go in. Amanda says Trump is not taking anything from anyone. True. Amy says, who was drafted by the Dodgers? I think that's a completely different topic. Equally interesting. Amanda says, he's helping the poor with prescription cuts and prices going down. Right on. Sue says, is this where you go on Saturdays, Amy? Well, Payne, you don't know what you're talking about, so I can't help you there. You believe what you want to believe. And I don't lie. So, unless you have something to say other than a attack, unless you want to point out what I lied about, and we can discuss it, and then we can bring in facts and details that you're not prepared to do. If I was you, I would stop while you're ahead. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here. Don't take advantage of it. Amanda says all these people with Trump deranged syndrome blows my mind. And Amy says, yes, Sue, we usually don't have this many varying opinions. Usually not. Everything I've said is a lie, huh? Well, I should just shut my YouTube channel down and go home then, on your word. Amy says, Jake missed a bunch in chat. I got it. I just had to go back and get it. Walter says, Trump screws a lot up, but I'm not a cult member. Or Trump screws a lot up, I'm not a cult member, but the news is all fake and missing the real issues. True. I'm not a cult member either. Okay. Why do you think they gave him an airplane? You think they just did that? You don't know about that either, do you? That's okay. My chat jumped again. Give me a second. I got to find it. I was born in a crossfire hurricane. Boy, it jumped a lot. It's like a bouncy house in here. I found it. All right. Debbie says, Fab Daddy, if you are referring to the parade, you should look into it. The Army has been planning the parade since Biden was in office for their 250th year. It just happens to be during Trump's birthday. How about that? Didn't think about that, did you? Amy says, no name calling. Right. Stop calling names. Sue says, Amy, he seems to be jumping around. You know, sometimes my chat jumps a lot, and I have to find it, and sometimes I miss it, and that's why they point it out when I finally do find it. It takes me a minute, but I'll get it eventually. I'll read every comment, unless they've been banned, and I'll read some of them. Depends on what they say. And by the way, just so all of you know, I'm not doing the banning. I trust my moderators. They do a good job. They keep the chat level and sweet. And that's their job. And I'm not going to question them on it. Debbie says, birthday month, not for his birthday. Right on. Linda Davis says, his chat jumped, Sue, and he'll get back to it. Christine says, good point, Debbie. Sharon Taylor says, Trump started planning for the 250th in his first term. Right on. Good call. Aaron says, Payne, feel free to state your views with more than one word. Also refrain from direct name calling. Thank you, Aaron. I don't think they're interested in that. I think they just want to cause trouble and not have a real conversation. Trump's poll numbers dropped like a rock. Well, you'd be incorrect about that. They dropped about 2 points. And they did because he's during a tariff transaction. And some people are against the tariffs. So naturally, polls are going to drop. Do you remember when he first got elected, he said, I'm going to lead with tariffs. And we're going to have a little bit of a rough patch, but that's okay. We can handle it. He was referring to this when he said that. Most people don't seem to understand that can't think beyond today and don't really have any foresight or ability to see patterns emerge. They don't seem to get it. So let me explain it to you. Trump understands money in a way that none of us do. He is a genius when it comes to numbers. I know you think he's not because you buy into the shtick that he does, which disarms people and also wins him a lot of stuff. But trust me when I tell you, he graduated very highly in his class. He's a very smart guy. He has other geniuses in his family, and he's one of them. Now, he is a genius when it comes to the economy. He's been talking about it since the 80s, and in the 80s, he said the same thing he's saying now, which is correct. So, what Trump is doing is he recognizes that there are certain people that we have been propping up for many, many years. Money from this country goes out to many other countries. We are effectively the world's police, and we pay for a lot of things, but they never pay their part back. And then they tariff their stuff that comes into our countries, and we pay the tariffs. We do not tariff anything that goes into their countries, and they don't pay us any money. So it's always money going out, no money coming in. Trump stopped that. And he started with a 25% tariff on China, and they refused. And then he bumped it up to 50, and they refused. And then he bumped it all the way up to 125% tariffs, and they caved like a house of cards and started paying their fair share, and then he dropped the tariffs down to about 25% again. That's how it works. During that period of time where he's testing the other country, we're going to have a rough patch. But when they cave and start doing their part and everything equals out, our prices go down, money skyrockets, everybody's happy. That's the way it's going to go every time he takes his eye off of one country and puts it onto another. It's going to happen like that. That's why the poll numbers drop, and that's why they go back up. You're not talking about his poll numbers, though. You're saying they dropped like a rock, but you're not saying that he's had higher poll numbers than anybody in his position in history. So they dipped a little bit. Ooh, they're still higher. Anyway. Debbie says, Payne, not according to the poll numbers I've seen. DJS Down Under. Australia needs help. Same. Welcome, DJS. How are you, sir? Australia has some problems for sure. And hopefully they will get away from the woke nonsense just like America is currently doing, trying to get out from under the woke disaster that has fallen upon us. Hopefully you guys will follow suit. And hopefully it'll get back to the way it was in the 80s with you guys or lesser. Welcome to the show. I love Australia. Walter Davis says, question, where would we be right now after a Harris 100 days? Well, basically, you remember when Al Gore said that the country would be underwater in 12 years? Probably about there. If Harris was president, we'd probably be fighting a war on this continent. I am so grateful we dodged that bullet. Payne, you seem to be getting all your messages deleted. Have you not figured out what's causing this yet? Amanda says Trump polls came up 6%. You need to check your numbers. Amy Elizabeth says, it's like a bouncy house, all this jumping around. The Trump deranged, please pick a topic. Right on. Let's have one conversation. They can't do that, though. The only fight they have is to circle the wagons because they don't have an argument, because they know they're in the wrong. They just haven't reconciled it with their minds yet. Sue says, Plain and Debbie, I've seen different pills with different results. Right on. Debbie says, Walter, we would be learning Chinese, probably. And Amanda says, Trump ran for office to help the country. Remember, he wasn't going to prison before he ran for office. You don't seem to... you were born before 2000, or after 2000, weren't you? Because people that were born after 2000 don't seem to think time existed before 2000. And can't really look backwards a whole lot. You got TikTok brain. You think in 10-second segments. That's incorrect, Fame. Amy says, DJ Downer. DJ S Down Under. Welcome. Hit that subscribe button, DJS. Christine says, Trump has $11 trillion in recent deals and counting. That's $11 trillion coming into this country that was not coming into this country before he was elected. Think about that. Christine says, counting. Amanda says, you better check your CNN and MSDNC polls again, Payne. And you're going to keep getting banned. You might as well get kicked out. You've been given enough chances. Trump asked who for $1 billion? Who? Who are you talking about? What are you talking about? Pick a topic. Amy says Sue is mostly blind and mistyped occasionally, but she's a wonderful person. Well, that's fantastic, and I'm glad Sue is here. And feel free to talk about it. Aaron says, what is the numbers on his poll? Payne, I don't think you know, do you? Sometimes we get in good conversations. Sometimes we can go back and forth on a subject and get way deep in the weeds and get heated and talk about details and facts and all that. Sometimes we have to deal with trolls that just come in and run their mouth and never say anything twice. That's the problem, Payne. That's the problem. You say one thing, and then you say something else, and then you say something else, and then you say something else, and none of those things are connected. That's not a conversation. I am reading chat from 374 people and keeping all of those current in my mind. What you are doing is disrupting the chat. That's not a conversation. Stop doing it now. You were asked a question more than once. Answer one of them, please. And Amanda says, no, we know the facts. Yeah, you see this? This is a microphone. You see this? This is a YouTube channel. You understand that you can't just say things on YouTube. You have to have your facts in order if you want to be taken seriously. There are people that do that. This ain't one of those places. Walter says, Payne, I'm a moderator. If anything, I'm a JFK Democrat. I'm a moderate. If anything, I'm a JFK Democrat. Right on. Yeah, people think that if you don't agree with them, then you're a right-wing crazy. That's the left's position. Never mind that there's all kinds of people in this chat from all different walks. There's liberals, there's libertarians, there's Republicans, there's conservatives, there's agnostics. There's all kinds in here. They only see one thing. You don't agree with me, you must be a MAGA right-wing crazy. Sue Wood says, thanks, Amy. Well, if Trump's a grifter, he's the worst one that has ever existed because everything he has grifted thus far is coming true exactly like he said it would. His first term. He said it then. It's all happening now. He must be a terrible racist, too, because he's got a lot of black friends. Will Romaine, welcome to the show and watch your mouth. Again, with the insults. What have I lied about? Name it. Say it. Show me where I'm wrong. And more than that, show everybody else where I'm wrong so that you can be justified in your accusation of me lying. You can't just say you're lying, dude, because nobody believes you. Really, how many times do you think Obama has been to the Obama library? Or Clinton to the Clinton library? Mr. Bullshit. And by the way, and I'll say this again, the presidential libraries belong to the country, not to the president. You see, when Trump leaves office, he leaves the presidential stuff behind. They go to a library or they go into the military if it's a military vehicle, like this plane is. It's the new Air Force One, which means the next president will likely be flying in it. Amanda says, Susie, here's your channel. Everybody go show Susie some love. Go subscribe to her channel and check her content out. Amanda says, hi, Will, welcome. Tread carefully. Amy says she posts mainly on Facebook. Nice. Well, I hope you get some traffic from all of this, Susie. And I hope that you do good content. Now you're repeating yourself, Payne. Aaron says, Payne, that's number 2 on the name calling. Don't do it. Amy says, hi, Will, welcome. And Debbie says, Will and Payne came to play, haha. It looks that way, doesn't it? I apologize for those of you wanting to have a conversation. You're about to find out, Payne. Sue says, my Instagram is my main social media. Amy says, we don't tolerate that, Payne. You better stop it now. DJS Down Under says, Trump is weeding out the swamp. Please help Oz. Immigration is out of control here. Homelessness is out of control. Yes, it is, DJS, and I apologize for that, but we're working on it. We're trying to get it under control here, but there's a lot of crazy that we got to weed through. A lot of it. But I'm willing to bet that if Doge is successful, Doge is the company that's been put together, the organization in the Trump administration to weed out unnecessary money being expended in the name of woke nonsense and shutting down all of the unnecessary EPAs and Board of Education and all that good stuff. Not Board of Education. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, if that is successful, there will be a whole lot of money in the coffers to play with for things that are actually necessary, like helping our neighbor Australia out. And I hope it gets to that. Amanda says, see you, Payne. We don't disrespect in here. There you go. You learned. Aaron says, shove that foot up your ass. Will. I don't know what that means, but it got deleted, so somebody knows what it means. Watch your mouth. Christine Marshall says, Grifter, there have been proposals by some Democrats to make adjustments to Social Security to ensure its long-term solvency, and these proposals have been characterized as cuts by political opponents. Imagine that. So what you're saying is Trump is just doing what every president does to try to prolong the country and its government into the future. Sounds reasonable to me. Amanda says, that's right, Aaron. And Amanda says, booted, who's next? Oh, you got the banhammer woke up. Congratulations. Now pay the consequences. Amy says, we warned him. We need peaceful discord, not juvenile insults. Agreed. Aaron says, bye-bye. Bye-bye, pain in the ass. Will says, that's for sure. I don't know what you're referring to, Will. Aaron says, kindness is free. Yes, it is. And it's also preferred. So be kind and say hello instead of your nonsense. You are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to have a discussion about what you believe, and you can do that without being a peckerwood. Try it. You might grow up a little. Amy Bordeaux says, I'm number 3 in other shows, so I'm moving up. Hi, Aaron. Walter says, dropping people over 150 years old from Social Security can hardly be called a cut. Right. I want to meet some of these people that are over 150, over 200, over 300 years old. I'd be willing to bet they work for Congress. I'm just saying. Aaron says, so cool, Amy. And Amy says, Aaron, I'm number 1 as far as cool. You know you are. Sue says, mature adults only. Right on, Sue. Will says, LOL, dirty Gulf. Amy Elizabeth says, Gulf of America. Right on. Amanda says, hi, DJS. Welcome. DJS says, hi. Will says, it's still the Gulf of Mexico. Nope, it's not. It's the Gulf of America. Sorry to disappoint you. Look at a map. Look at Google Maps. Sharon says, the Gulf of America. Right on. DJS says, keep fighting the good fight. We're going to try to, DJS. Won't you come join us? Hit that subscribe button and help us fight that good fight. We need good soldiers. Amanda says, the Gulf of America. Look on Google Maps or any online maps. Look at them. It's the Gulf of America. Amy B says, Sue, I can't be mature. I tried. If I tried. Well, you're doing a pretty good job of it here. You haven't done anything crazy so far. Amy says, North America, Central America, Gulf of the Americas. Nice. Aaron says, to me, you're both number one. Amy 1 and Amy 2. To me, you're Amy 1 and Amy 2. Right on. Aaron says, number 1. To me, you're both Amy 1 and Amy 2 are both number 1. I think that's what you're trying to say. Amy says, I want to learn ASL. Well, apparently we have somebody in here that teaches that. Maybe you should talk. Exchange information. Aaron says, LOL, remember ASL back in the day? It means something totally different now, right? Amy says, Amy B, I know this in ASL. Thumbs up, thumbs down, fingers together, middle finger. Right on. I know a couple of other ones. I know throw some metal on it. Christine Marshall says, my dad died, and I was told to get survivor's benefits, and they don't last long from what I understand. Recently? Your dad recently died? Like in the last week? If so, I apologize. I'm sorry for your loss. We'll pray for you. But if he served in the military or had something to do with a government position, you can get benefits for sure. I don't know what survivor's benefits are per se, but I know that, like, if you have children and the father dies, the government will put a stipend in for until they turn 18 or something like that. My mother had that. My dad was not in the Army as far as I know. It was like a Social Security kind of thing. Yep. Amy says, Aaron, ASL used to stand for age, sex, and location. Sue Wood says, I'm a professionally trained, visually impaired seamstress. I was born with a rare genetic birth defect. I'm sorry to hear that, but congratulations on finding a profession and being capable of performing it. That's wonderful. I'm visually impaired also. I can see, but I'm blind as a damn bat in one eye. Aaron says, Amy, you remember? Sue says, I make costumes, vintage and historical styles, clothing, hats, bonnets, stockings, undergarments, corsets, lingerie, and handbags, etc. That's awesome. Can you make me an Elvis costume? Can you? You can't see, but I'm smiling right now. Hilariously. Walter Davis says, I personally know 2 people who met Hillary Clinton when they picked up coke at the Mena Airport in Arkansas. Oh, yeah. You want to know about corrupt politicians. Look into Mena, Arkansas. Look into Governor Bill Clinton. Look at what they were doing over there. And tie that in with the CIA running drugs and contraband into South America and out of South America and training Iran-Contra over there in Mena, Arkansas. Aaron says, BRB, dog needs to go. I hear you. My dog is currently outside where she tends to be during podcasts because she likes to bark when I'm not in the room. Amy says, Christine, when my husband died, they said I could get benefits too, but the hoops you have to jump through, I don't know if I can get all the paperwork. I'm sorry to hear that, Amy. I hope you can. Amanda says, LOL, Will, Trump derangement syndrome much? Apparently. There you go with that word again. I don't understand what you're saying, and I don't speak Gen Z, so spill it. Say what you really mean to say, or don't say it at all. Linda says, Sue, my son has a rare eye condition as well. It's called Terrain's marginal degenerative disorder. Mine's called amblyopia. Christine Marshall says, I quit on it. I am too busy. Great point, Amy. Bill Bennett, what's up, brother? He says, hello, Untethered Live family. Happy Saturday. Hello. And by the way, to newcomers that are thinking about sticking around, Saturday is an unusually hot-tempered, very touchy episode. It is not always that way. We're usually pretty chill around here. But Saturdays is Politi-tics. It's in the name. It's lunatics for politics. So it's always a political bent, always an argument. That's the whole point of it, is discourse. The whole point of this particular show is to bring people together who otherwise do not talk and espouse each other's opinions loudly and see who knows what they're talking about. And by doing so, other people that are listening might learn something. That's what Saturday is about. If you're going to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. That's what we're here to do on Saturdays. Amy Elizabeth says, hi, Bill. Linda says, hi, Bill. What it is? What's up, buddy? He says, it's called karma. Right on. How you doing, what it is? Amanda says, hi, Bill. And Linda Davis says, hi, what it is? Amy says, and your work is beautiful, Susie. I'd like to see some of your work. What it is says, hello, Linda. Amy says, hi, what it is? Aaron says, Sue, that is so cool. That is a cool job. I make shirts, too, of the t-shirt variety. Amanda says, hi, what it is? And Walter says, hi, what it is? And Sue says, I'm cool with the content so far. I'll give this another try. Please do. And what it is says, hi, Amy. Tomorrow night we're going to be doing Bible study, which is as what it sounds like. Sue says, Linda, I was born with cataracts. Can you see at all, or are you just impaired? What it is says, hi, Walter. Will says, I like this channel. Well, we like you too. We just want you to be a little bit more respectful. You keep getting banned. I'm assuming you were put in timeout. And that'll pass soon enough. If you're interested in sticking around, stick around till your timeout passes, and we'll see if we can't have a conversation. But just learn from what you see around you. The stuff that other guy was doing, not acceptable. That's not how we communicate. You're welcome to be here, Will, but you got to follow the rules, and the rules are simple. Be nice to the ladies and don't throw insults around. Don't be rude. It's easy to do. If you have an opinion, state it. Talk about it. We're here to talk. This is a No judgment zone. You are free to discuss what you believe to be true, but you better believe it, and you better know why you believe it, because I'm going to call you on it. That's my job. I am an arbiter of reality. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to call you on it. You'll either prove me wrong or you'll cave under the pressure of logic, one or the other. By the way, since we're talking about it, hit that subscribe button, press the bell icon so you get notifications of when I'm going to be online. Smash that like button. It's free, it's effortless, it's right in front of you. It really does help the channel with our algorithms. It helps us get recommended to people. Won't you do that, please? Share this video with somebody you love. Better yet, share it with somebody you don't love. Bring them into the family. Make them part of the fold. Be part of their solutions, not part of their problems. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about. Question me, curse me, bless me, challenge me, confront me, conform me, drink my Kool-Aid. Make your own Kool-Aid. As long as you're thinking critical, that's what I want. Critical thought coming from that brain of yours. And hey, if you like the content, if you love what you hear tonight or any other night and you want to help out, well, put in a super chat. That's always appreciated. Or join the channel. See what you're missing. Get the real stuff over there. Get yourself a J tag. Stand out in the crowd. Look authoritative. And be part of the group. Or buy a t-shirt down below. Whatever you want to do. But if you feel led otherwise to send tithes, offerings, or love offerings to our little ministry, or if you want to help me keep the lights on around here, you can do that by going to paypal.me/jakejohnsonband. Or if you're a CashApp user, $JakeJohnsonBand. Every little bit helps. It is a win-win. It is a blessing to me, but it's a blessing to you too. Why? Because God notices these things, and we live in a reciprocal universe. That's how it works. I'll always do everything in my power to be worthy of your contributions, as I am brought to people by viewers just like you. I will read all of your questions and all of your comments, and I will endeavor to answer every single one, no matter how long it takes. Now, back to the show, and thank you for listening. Amy says, he got that rare gifted tiger at the Smithsonian now. Who did what? What are we talking about? Sue says, thanks, Amy and Aaron. Amy says, I think Will was making a joke. We were saying hi to Bill, and he said it's Will, and hi to both Bill and Will. Maybe so. Walter Davis says the plane will go to the Department of Defense. That's what I'm thinking. And they will make it into the Air Force One after Trump leaves office, and it will still be Air Force One. There you go. That's the answer. That's what I thought they were going to do with it. And Will says, thanks. You're welcome, Will. Aaron says, Sue, do you think you could do an outfit for me if I pay you? How about that? You see, come to the channel and getting business already. I like it. This is a community, boys and girls, and we are here for each other. This is a commitment that we all make every day to be part of a community, because we're stronger in numbers. That's the way it works in this world. And the beautiful thing about a community is everybody brings something to the table. And everybody is in need of something from the table. And if you have a big table, everybody gets something from the table. You see how that works? It's a beautiful thing for a small community to have. So I encourage you to bring your friends and make our community strong. Amanda says, and support each other and care for each other and reach out to each other. Be there for one another. It's a beautiful thing. Aaron says, Jake is right. It was sad through the whole thing, the George Floyd thing. Yeah, it was a bad situation all the way around. Amy says, I had plenty of run-ins with the law, and one of the good ones got gunned down for a pack of smokes. So they need to be careful. Well, here's the problem. There's a lot of people in this country, and a lot more people coming in every day, which is why Trump is so serious about shutting off the border, if you really think about the whole situation. So in order to keep the peace, they're hiring many more law enforcement. The problem is the training suffers when you have too many law and not enough trainers. There's a lot of cops out there don't even know the law. I watch videos of them all day long of cops doing things they shouldn't be doing that's in the Constitution. They should know these things. They're not trained. They don't know. They should be trained immediately, hand-to-hand combat, and first of all, before anything else, how to de-escalate a situation. And they're not versed in that at all. Most of them are overweight. Most of them are out of shape. Most of them resort to violence way too soon because of the fear, because of not being able to handle their own environment. They need to hire cops that are big, and they need to hire cops that can handle a situation, preferably ex-soldiers who have a temperament for de-escalation, not escalation. I don't know how to fix it. All I can tell you is that they're hiring way too many D-bags that don't know how to handle a situation. What it is says, Virginia said what? Amy B says, cashes a fake $10. Who cashes a fake $10? Sue says, Aaron, I rarely so... Huh? Oh, George Floyd cashed fake $10 bills. Got it. Sue says, Aaron, I rarely sew for others and especially long distance because I'm visually impaired and I take longer than people aren't willing to pay me for fair hourly wages. Well, there you go. Amy says they asked what he took and he denied anything. Right on. As most people do when they're caught doing drugs. That's not a race thing at all. That's just the way people are. And Debbie says, Fab Daddy are disgusted that Ronald Reagan's Air Force One sits at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library Museum in Simi Valley, California. How about that, Fab Daddy? She told you. I can't snap, but you got the idea. Amy says, oh, I thought he was talking to me, Amanda, but you're the banhammer. And what it is says, a truckus. What? What is a truckus? Are you talking about a tookus? Like a butt? Will says, easy to say. I know, right? Aaron says, I see, Sue. I understand that. Well, what are you referring to, Will? Easy to say. What's easy to say? My spiel or the community thing? Or what are we talking about? Aaron says, I see, Sue. I understand that. And Linda Davis says, I thought he was talking to Amy Elizabeth, 71. I don't know. Amy says, Amy B, I thought I heard him say he took something. I don't know. I don't know all the details of that case. So really, I'm talking about it from a spectator's position. I don't have all the details in front of me. As with most things that we talk about on this channel, I'm spitballing because I don't have everything pulled up right in front of me. But I'm being honest. Christine Marshall says, good point, Amy. DGS says, the U.S. swamps tributaries run all the way to Australia. The voting system is now rigged here. Please help Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Amen. I hope they will be successful. They've only got 4 years to pull it off, but I hope. 3 years now. Walter says, it was the middle of the day. Floyd was trying to pass counterfeit 20s at the store, and they didn't take them and called the police. And Floyd was sitting in his car and saw the cops walk and swallowed some drugs. Right. Well, taking something or not does not deserve death, says Will. You're right. But the cop did not kill him. He was dying already. That's what the coroner's report suggests. That's all there is to that. We've established that point. I know it feels emotional, and I know people want to blame somebody. This was a bad situation. It was a bad move by the cop. Although he was doing what he was trained to do, it was not a right move. Whoever trained him to do that was in the wrong, and he was in the wrong for doing it. George Floyd was acting wrong and should not have been in that position. He was breaking the law, and he was on drugs and had way too much of it in his system. That's what killed him. The situation went south. The whole thing. It was not a good situation, which if you've ever lived in the world for more than 5 minutes, you know can happen like that to anybody. This was not a race situation. It was not spurred on by race. It was not caused by race. If you're going to talk about it, we have to talk about it according to the facts. And the facts suggest that he died of an overdose, regardless of what anybody else did. That was going to happen either way. That being said, he was in the wrong for trying to pass out fake 20s or whatever it was, and the cops were in the wrong for escalating to a situation where they had him on the ground with his knee on his neck. Should not have been. This all could have been handled a different way. So if, at the very least, this is a learning situation, and if we handled it that way, think about what we could solve if we just looked at it like a learning opportunity. This is how you don't handle a traffic stop. Train your officers not to let this happen. Life in prison? I don't think so. Amy says, Amanda is awesome. She is. And Amanda says, you might be right, Amy. I'm bad. My bad. Fab Daddy says, hi, Debbie. And yes, disgusted at old airplanes taking up space on expensive land. Well, where would you put them? Isn't that what presidential libraries are for? Which we established, by the way, Trump's plane is not going to his library. It's going to the Department of Defense to be Air Force One. It's an upgraded Air Force One. That's the whole point in giving them the plane. That means that future presidents will be on it as well. He swallowed a bag of fentanyl, says Walter, and the cops talked to him and asked him to get out of the car. And they started walking, and he started having trouble walking. He hit the ground, and they held him to keep him. They held him to keep him from convulsing as he OD'd. Okay, I don't know about all of that. All I know are the details, the high points of the details. He was in the car. He was out of the car. He was on the ground. The cop put his knee on his neck in a offensive position to keep him on the ground, but he stayed there way too long, and the guy died while all of this was going on sometime after he let him up. I'm not exactly sure. He didn't die while he was on the ground. I think he died when he got in the ambulance. I think. I'm not sure about that point. He might have died while he was on the ground, but I assume after the ambulance came, they put him in the ambulance and he died there. Amy says, being an addict doesn't mean a person is bad. True. It means they made bad decisions. The other thing Floyd did made him bad. A judge should have made the decision, bad scenario every way around. Exactly. No, it was hijacked the moment that it happened, because that was during all the Black Lives Matter riots and all that stuff. And that whole thing got hijacked because that was popular to do. There's quite a few things that got politicized in the moment, different circumstances, but his got hijacked and they venerated the guy immediately, and that was the wrong thing to do. It was like they didn't even see the details of the case. They just took the name and used it as a political pawn. So I actually feel bad for George Floyd because he didn't care about any of that. That wasn't his purpose in life. They made him that after his death posthumously. he could have probably benefited from some counsel and a rehabilitation for his, thievery. Amy says also they were misdemeanor charges into felonies. I don't know what that's referring to. Christine says Trump's response to 34 felonies was, I am just proud to be involved in this process because we are fighting for our Constitution. I'd rather be the one who keeps pushing forward. Aaron says a knee on the neck is still bad, and him being high was bad, and it was just a messed up day. Right. The whole thing was bad. Every move in that whole situation was the wrong thing to do on both sides. Fab Daddy says Charlton Heston just ran over a trooper after watching his son get murdered. Charles Hinton ran over a trooper after watching his son get murdered by the police the day before. Well, both of those things are wrong. Sue says facts. Aaron says, this is a good chat tonight. It is. Even if I don't understand a lot of the politics. Well, that's why we're having the chat, to educate everybody on the politics. I think all of us are in that boat, Aaron. Amy says, I'm going through menopause, so I didn't notice the heat in here. Oh, I am. I'm sweating bullets. I must be going through menopause too. Amy says, note to the new folks, it takes Jake a while to read the comments, so context in your comments is important at times. Agreed. Yeah, you can't just do one-word answers because I won't know what you're talking about. You have to state what you're talking about. Fat Daddy says, Jake, do you know the 5 elements of the First Amendment? Fab Daddy, who you talking to? Amanda says, LOL, Aaron, stick around. We will learn you. Walter Davis says, Fab, true, but the cop he ran over was not the one that shot his son. He was a part-time, retired guy directing traffic. And this is an important fact because retribution does not equal revenge, which is what occurred. This guy did not serve justice by killing an innocent person because an innocent person was killed. Two wrongs don't make a right. Sue Wood says, Amy, does he always do this? He always does. Christine Marshall says, no jury, no crime, no victim, no witness, no cross-examination of witnesses, no discovery, no legal representation. You can drop a felony down, but you cannot take a misdemeanor and turn it up to a felony. Right. Will says, I got my dogs outside with me, and it's a good time on this channel sorting out Trump's BS. Well, I don't think it's BS. I think he's doing a good job. There's a couple of things I disagree with that he's done, but for the most part, I think he's overall doing a good thing. Amy says, yes, Susie, we have Bible study on Sundays and Mondays. On Wednesdays and Fridays, we have Chill Stream where we just play music and talk about whatever. It's pretty peaceful, pretty laid back. Drink coffee and talk about it. Sometimes we do movie reviews. Sometimes we read articles. Sometimes we discuss things, whatever. And on Saturday, we do Politi-tics, which is this kind of thing. There is, however, over 1,000 videos on my channel, and you're welcome to go back and check out any one of them. They'll give you a good idea what to expect from this channel. Amanda says, I do, Fab. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and the right to petition the government. Think about those for a little while. Aaron says, ooh, Gotcha. Amanda says Sunday and Monday are Bible study, Wednesday and Friday are chill streams, and Saturday is Politi-tics. And Tuesday and Thursday I'm exhausted. Bill Bennett says Bible study is the reason for Untethered Live family, I believe. I agree. It's more than that, though. It's a wisdom exchange. That's what we're doing here. We're exchanging wisdom. If everybody is in a tight-knit community and everybody brings to the table their wisdom and exchanges it, we all get smarter. All boats rise at the same tide. Amy Elizabeth says, Amy B., welcome to the club. Some like it hot. We're called cougars. What it is says, hello, Amanda. And Will says, Biden was more stable. You got to be kidding me. I know you don't believe that. And if you do, boy, you need to have your eyes checked. And your ears and probably your brain. Bill Bennett says, Biden stable? LOL. There's nothing stable about that guy. Amanda says Biden couldn't walk upstairs or stay on a stage. He lost his mind and don't know who he was, says Amanda. Amy says, in stable condition, maybe. And Will says, forget Biden. Exactly. Forget Biden. Walter says, Biden was sedated, not stable. Linda says, my son is a cop, and I realize that they are not all good, but they are human, too, and have to make split-second decisions. They all want to go home at night and not in a body bag. So, yes, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I agree with that sentiment to some degree. I don't think the fault is on the police officer. I think the fault is on the trainers of the police officers. I don't think there's enough training going on. I really don't. I really think that they should be involved in certain things before becoming a cop, like psychology and criminology and things like that. And I think after becoming a cop, they need to learn about self-defense and how to de-escalate a situation. A little Krav Maga, a little Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will go a long way. And also gun training. Lots of it. Not just gun range, but gun training. I really think that's a necessary fact that we're not doing enough of. That being said, cops have to be able to keep the peace. They have to be able to make a decision and run with it, or else there's no point in being a cop. If it's more dangerous for you to be a cop, nobody's going to want to be a cop. So I agree with that too. That's not true, Will. You're starting that up again. Stop doing that. It's okay to have an opinion. It's not okay to espouse falsehoods. And that's not true. Now you're insulting my intelligence. Amy B says, I like a difference of opinion. People stick around to learn, and I'm sure it's hard to know you've been wrong. Yes. And that's true for everybody. But if you eat a piece of humble pie and agree ahead of time to end this conversation as friends, like me and Fab Daddy do, then it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. In the end, we can learn from us. We can learn. And even if we can't, say me and Fab Daddy ain't never going to change our minds. He's going to argue with me. I'm going to argue with him. I can't change his mind. He can't change mine. But there are 763 people listening to this podcast right now who might. So this conversation is important. That's why we have discourse. Seems to be something wrong with that cup. I don't know what it is, but I think it's empty. Amanda says, Biden and stable should not be in the same sentence. I agree. And Amanda says, that Biden will. That Biden, yes. Bill Bennett says, we're all humans on this rock together. Be kind to one another. I agree. Aaron says, this is great. All walks of life talking it out. That's the way it should be. And also, we used to do that years ago. We used to, like, when I went to college, we had forums where people would come that would be wildly different than what we thought. And they would have, like, a lecture. And they would espouse their beliefs. And then we would ask questions. And they would answer them. And then we would walk away thinking about the world. And some of us would come to our own conclusions and grow up to be people that would go to campuses and espouse ideas and get asked questions. They don't do that anymore. Now it's bubbles. This campus have these speakers and those speakers are not allowed. That was unthinkable when I went to college. So I'm glad that we can do this and have conversations, even if we disagree, as long as we walk out of this thing knowing more than we came into it with. That's what matters. Amy says, rabbits are cute and furry. Yes, they are. Linda says, okay, Will, you don't need to repeat the same thing, right? Fab Daddy says, our government screwed up with Biden. He wasn't fit for office. They knew it and swept it under the carpet. We all saw it during the debates. Right on. And they didn't screw up. They did that on purpose. And it backfired. They did not get the outcome that they thought they were going to get. Amy B says, I thought it was a hillbilly southern thing. What's that? A snake farm, says Amy. It would have to be. But I'm hillbilly and southern, and I don't have a snake farm or like snakes. I think that's wrong with the world. We've been listening to too many snakes. Amanda says, Biden has colon cancer. Probably. Will, you're wearing thin, buddy. I'm giving you an opportunity, but you're going to squander it. Amy Elizabeth says, he does. I don't like Biden, but I still pray for him. That's a terrible disease. Yes, it is. And I think he does. He's got some kind of cancer, but I'm not sure if it's that one. She probably knows more than me, though. Amanda says, Biden fell down a rabbit hole and stayed there. Amy says, and flat feet are no joke. I have no arches, and I have days I can't walk and have since I was a child. I have flat feet, too, because I walked to South Carolina from Georgia one time. And cowboy boots. And ever since then, flat feet. And they hurt. Most of the days, I feel like I'm walking on my ankles. Amy says, Amanda, he ate the chocolate balls. Hang on, my chat jumped again. A lot. I thought I was at the bottom, but apparently I'm at the top. Oh, that's weird. It won't let me go up any further. I have missed a chunk of the chat, ladies and gentlemen. It has locked me out of some of it, so I'm going to miss some of it. I apologize for that. That is not my fault. That's YouTube's fault. I'm up at the top. It will not let me go any further. Amanda says, hi, Void. Void Adventures, welcome back. Long time no see. How you doing? Y'all excuse me for a moment. Look at this while I go take care of something. Bum, bum, bum. I'm back. Sorry about that. That's what is known in the business as a pee break. Had to. All this coffee I'm drinking. It is delicious, though. BHT says, I love Trump. Welcome, BHT. Amanda says, hi, BHT. Welcome. Amy Elizabeth says, it's a discussion. One person makes a comment, another person replies. That's how a conversation works. Again, I apologize for missing some of the chat. It disappeared. I can't get it. I'm at the top of my chat. I don't know where it went. Sorry about that. I'll continue from here. BHT says, I'm a gay loser, but I'd vote Trump for a third term. Well, God loves the sinner, not the sin. Go and sin no more, gay loser. Or keep doing you. That's between you and God. I'll accept you as BHT. I don't need to know about your sex life. All right, that's it, Will. Last chance. Fab Daddy says, isn't it ironic that the EAU played the song YMCA for Trump, considering they are anti-homosexual nation? Yet they played YMCA, the gayest anthem around. Well, funny you should mention that, Fab Daddy. That's a uniquely American way of looking at music. I didn't know a song could be gay unless you're talking about that Boy Bussy song, which is really gay. Other than that, I think YMCA just means YMCA to most people. We see it because we know who wrote the song. I don't think people judge music that way. It is kind of funny, though. Joke's on them for that one. BHT says, agreed, Will. No, we don't do that. We're not doing trolls in here. Amanda says, people with Trump derangement syndrome can't carry on a good conversation, Amy. True. They seem to respond in TikTok videos, little 10-second clips of random ideas that don't connect. BHT says, good point, Fab Daddy. Amy Elizabeth says, Trump cannot run for a third term. Correct. All of you that are fear-mongering about Trump running for a third term, you are incorrect. That's not how it works. He might have said it. He was trolling you. He knows he can't run for a third term, which is why he's setting up his cabinet the way that he is. If he plays his card right, if he is smart, he will set up a government that will last for 30 years beyond him. If he puts the right people in place to take over for when he goes away, like J.D. Vance or like Donald Trump Jr. might become president. If this works out, he can keep the MAGA movement going for a very long time, because as long as he's creating things that have success, nobody will vote against that. Trust me. We are tired of suffering as a country. If at the end of this 4 years things are way, way better, people are making money, Democrats will never win again. For the foreseeable future anyway. Christine Marshall says, anyone who is against tariffs don't understand the Monroe Doctrine or the McKinley reciprocal tariffs process. Well, the funny thing is, this entire country was designed to be ran 100% on tariffs. The original government, that's how they were going to do it. Taxes came in later, and then it was supposed to be temporary, and they never let go of that power, because they don't let go of power when you give it to them. Walter Davis says, BHT, nobody here cares if you're gay. Amanda says, that was awesome, Fab Daddy. BHT says, that's why I said, if I could. Void Adventure says, people are saying that Boeing 747 was produced in Qatar. The plane was bought from America and sent to Qatar, and now they're gifting it back to us, and people are livid about it over policy. Well, see, here's the thing. It's a gift to America. It's not a gift to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not keeping the plane when he leaves. So people are unjustly losing their minds over it. Other countries give us gifts all the time. We usually just don't make a big deal about it. Void Adventure says the plane was produced in America and people are saying it was produced in Qatar. Right. Amy Elizabeth says, what kind of rifle do you have, Will? They're already doing these tariffs ain't going to do what Trump expected. They're already doing it. Like it or not, Trump knows what he's doing, and it's working. You don't have to like him to admit that he's right. Void Adventure says they are working. And Walter says Hitler wrote Mein Kampf. Yes, he did. And anyone who read it knew Hitler. Trump wrote Art of the Deal. Read it, and you will know Trump. Understand Trump. Right. Smart. I agree. 100%. Sue says, well, Jake, what you say makes sense to me and adds another perspective to things. I like to form my own opinions based on different perspectives, as you should. I'm not suggesting that you have to drink my Kool-Aid, but it is there if you wish to have some. BHT says Mein Kampf, Lamau. I like the spelling. Took me a minute. Fab Daddy says, Void, the plane will cost millions to convert to a la Force One. It will have to be combed through every inch, probably. Amy says, as we all should, Susie, we should avoid groupthink and echo chambers, which is why this is important, what we're doing here. This is not an echo chamber. Boyd says, the UK has fallen. They let their own flag fall to the ground as they hang up the pride flag. We don't need more conservatives or liberals in the world. We need more common sense people in the world. Amen. You might, and you'd be forgiven for thinking it, but you might think I'm a conservative. I am a Christian with common sense. Amanda says, did I miss something, Aaron? I don't know. Linda says, BHT, Walter's typing may not be great, but he is a very informed and intelligent man. Right on. Walter says, Fab, yes, it will. But Boeing has been years late on the delivery of the new Air Force One, which was ordered in Trump's first term. Christine says the tariffs already did what Trump wanted. He brought all the countries back to the table and negotiated fair deals, leaving China isolated and pinched, stepping away from the dollar act China had going on. See? Amy Elizabeth says, I saw it, Amanda. It wasn't a very nice comment. Had something to do with pew-pews that the Secret Service would be interested in. Yeah, well, let's not be talking about that sort of thing. We do not espouse violence on this show, unless it's metaphorical. And we don't espouse violence to the government because they're listening. Use brain power, folks. Kevin Bernard says, hello, everyone. Hello, Kevin. How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show. Nice to see you, though. Sorry, my video just won its case. It's back. The video that I had ad suitability issues on, they did that just to show me they were still listening. Yes, this show can be shadow banned. But I won. I got it. So I told you it could happen quick or it could take months. Never know. Amanda says, hi, Kevin. And Linda says, hey, Kevin. Sue says, Amy, you're fast. They're all fast. They're not carrying wrenches for nothing, Susie. Kevin Bernard says, hey, Amanda. Void Adventure says, Biden agreed on presidential immunity. The Democrats don't talk about that. Of course he did. He's a president. He wants the immunity too. They don't think about that because they can't think for themselves. Hive mind mentality is real. They are a cult. Absolutely true, Void Adventures. They are a cult. A lot of people have fallen into that cult as well, and we're trying to break them out of it. Amanda says, I was just wondering. Kevin says, hello, Linda. Walter says, Linda is just saying that because she has a big honey-do list. LOL. Well, I hope you're doing that honey-do list. I know I got to do mine. Amy says, hi, Kevin. You're going to love the TDS tonight. Kevin says, hello, Amy S. Walter says, hi, Kevin. Kevin says, hello, Walter. Amy says, drive-by commenting. That's exactly what it is, Amy. Christine says, Fab, Boeing supplied the plane in the past, and then the U.S. government puts it on. Right on. Amy says, hit that like button, please. Share. Yes, please do. Please hit that like button. Please share this video, and please, it's important. That's how I eat. Thank you, Amy. Walter says, I'm really happy Fetterman is recovering from his stroke. Me too. He was good before, ran as a train wreck, and then is recovered. Yeah, that was weird. When he was brain dead, they were all about Fetterman. They were propping him up. Them Democrats, they were putting him everywhere. He had to read a script because he couldn't think. As soon as he started thinking again, he started agreeing with Trump, and then they dropped him like a bad habit. You don't see Fetterman very much anymore because he was agreeing with Trump. Sue says, no bah. No bah? But what if I want to bah? What if I want to bah with the bah, the bang, diggy, diggy, said the boogie, said up, jump the boogie? How about that? What, no comeback? Fab Daddy says, Trump went to 3 countries on his trip east. I find that it's 3 countries that his sons are doing big development projects. Alarming. I have no evidence of that, Fab Daddy. By the way, 3 of his sons are not all involved in that business. One of his sons is. But I'm not shocked. Trump knows where his bread is buttered. That sounds like a big accusation to me. Do you have any evidence of that? Amy Elizabeth says, Super Chat's available. PayPal and CashApp. Feed Jake. Thank you, Amy. Please do. Amanda says, Trump is making deals for America to help us, not to hurt us. Aaron says, are you asking why I banned Will, Amanda? Yeah, are you? Because I banned him too. And then she said he was already banned. I got tired of him saying things about rifles. So if you banned him, you were thinking the same thing I was thinking. Amy says, you did good, Aaron. Yes, you did. And remember what I said earlier. You guys are carrying a wrench for a reason, and I'm not going to question that. You guys feel the need to ban somebody? Do your job. You got my support. Sue Wood says, so what's Jake's history and criteria? And why and how does he have this show? Well, I have this show because I built it from the ground up, starting back 10 years ago. I am a highly educated, overly qualified, misanthropic, eruditic autodidact. And if you don't know what those words mean, then you don't know what my qualifications are. But if you do, I'm that guy. And basically, I started this show to follow a calling. I've been feeling my whole life since I was a little boy like I was called to be a pastor, and I have fought it my whole life. Then my life hit really, really, really hard times. I don't want to go into details, but let's just say that it was life-altering what happened. And instead of blaming God, I went in the direction of God. And I made a decision in 2014 that if it was ever going to happen, it needed to happen now because I didn't have a lot of time left. Now, I have spent 45 years of my life in pursuit of knowledge. I have studied everything from the occult to antiquities to biblical everything. Anything you can think of involving that scenario, I've been down that rabbit hole. I've studied people. I've studied psychology. I've studied physics. I've studied philosophy. I've studied theosophy. I've studied the occult. I've studied the secrets of the world. I am a man of letters. I do have an education. That's not important. It does not matter what my qualifications are because unless you're going to use it to accuse me of something, they will never come up. Whatever letters or qualifications I have added to my name are irrelevant. Whether or not I've been knighted is irrelevant. Whether or not I have a PhD is irrelevant. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is this philosophy. You are only as smart as the other smartest person in the room. Anybody else that's beneath your education, whatever you say will go right over their head. So it doesn't matter how smart you are. It only matters how smart the people you're talking to are. So I started this show with that in mind. And I started with the Bible, Genesis 1:1, and I think I started in the New Testament and then did a Genesis thing separately. Because Genesis is what I have the authority on. That's the one I've studied the most. Now, what is my history? My history is one of academia. I've spent a great deal of time with my nose in books and my mind on things. I am a thinker. That's what I do. I think. Does that make me right? I don't know. I am humbled by the reality of the world that I live in. I have no idea whether I'm barking up the right tree. I just hope that I am. I'm relying on logic to dictate my intellect. And I'm holding fast to my faith in God that He has blessed me with the ability to be correct on what I'm saying. That's the only evidence I have to back up anything I have to say. And I humbly ask you to listen and to question. Don't just question what you see. Question what I see. If you're going to be part of this show, and that's the reason that I read the chat, and sometimes I have to cut it off because it gets too late, like it's probably going to happen tonight, because I'm at the top of the chat and it keeps growing, and my voice is fading fast. But I make every attempt to read everything that is said and then respond to it. My email is available 24/7. You can contact me if I've talked to you more than once. You can have my phone number. You can reach out. I will help you. I will answer your questions. I have made it my business to be available to answer your questions. And I'm not talking about things you can answer for yourself. I'm talking about deep philosophical or religious questions, things that bother you, things that plague your spirit. I have made it my business to know the answer to those questions. So if you have them, ask, and I will answer them. It may take me a little while. If I don't have it right off the top of my head, I will go find it, so you don't have to. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. I am a purveyor of secret information. I like secret information. I've spent my life looking for things that everybody don't know. So that comes in handy sometimes. But it also means that I'm working on a thesis, and that thesis is that everything you know is bullshit. Everything. I don't mean you personally. I mean the reality that has carefully been crafted since the 1800s to place in front of you as a facade everything that you see, every false dichotomy, every narrative, every line of logic and reason. Everything is bullshit. And the more you look, the worse it gets. And one day I'm going to write a book about that called Everything is Bullshit. The Inspiring Mind of Jake Johnson. Anyway, because of that fact, I am absolutely 100% going to say things that you think are wrong. I'm going to present a worldview to you that is contrary to anything you've ever heard before. I'm going to make comparisons and draw lines to things that mainstream science will say is incorrect. You have to be aware of that going into this. My goal is to change the narrative and bring it back to reality. The only way I can do that is to espouse what I believe. And how do I know that? I have to look at it and see if I know why I believe a thing. I don't base my information on whims. I don't believe a thing because I grew up believing it, or because that's what mommy believed, or because that's what they taught in Sunday school. I went and looked for myself, and I built a narrative in my mind of the world that we live in that makes sense to me. Because things that I've been taught don't add up. For example, I'll give you an example. What you learn in Sunday school is that Adam and Eve ate an apple, and God didn't care for that too much. And that's the original sin. Does that make sense to anybody? It doesn't. So I went looking. And what I discovered is that's not at all what's going on in the Garden of Eden. There isn't even an apple in that country. It's the Middle East. Might be a date or a fig. No apple trees. Anyway, why do they teach that? Well, because they're dumbing it down like they do everything else. They're dumbing it down to give you a narrative that you can remember, that is simple to remember and has symbology. And so there it is. So what's the truth? The truth is there was a 3-way sexual encounter that involved in a pregnancy. That's the truth. How do I know that's true? Read Genesis and see if I'm wrong. And you'll see that I'm right. You have to ask yourself what these words mean. The word seed, what does it mean? The word enmity, what does it mean? The word wholly seduced, expatio in Greek, what does it mean? Well, if you know, then you know. Hope that helps. I am honest. I will not lie to you. I might be wrong, but I'm not lying to you. If I say it, it's because I believe it to be true. And you can count on that. And I'm not just saying that to you. Ask anybody here that's been here for a year or more if they've ever heard me say anything that was a lie. And they'll all tell you no. I think. I haven't asked them. They might think I'm lying through my teeth. I don't know. But hopefully, they've come to trust me in the thinking process that I'm endeavoring to share with everyone. And that's all I'm trying to do is get you to think a different way. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to buy you or sell you. I'm just trying to get you to think for yourself in a different way than you've done so far. And if you can do that, you might begin to see the world come unraveled before your eyes. That's not always a good thing, though. Be prepared. If you do recognize it, if you do see it, it's not going to be a good thing. Much like the movie The Matrix. When you wake up, the world kind of sucks. That facade is a lot more comfortable than reality. Pardon me. Anyway, I hope that helps. That's a little bit about my history anyway. Any other questions? I'll be glad to answer them. Amanda says, I see now, Aaron. Way to go. Christine Marshall says, 2.2 trillion collected on the AREV tour. I was impressed. Right on. 11 trillion in total from what I understand. Fab Daddy says, yes, good job, Aaron. His statement was a bad form. Yes, it was. Amy says, Sue, he's a musician. He toured worldwide with David Allan Coe. That's not true. It wasn't worldwide. It was East Coast, but I did tour with David Allan Coe. And he's an educated man and a pastor. Thank you, Amy. I did tour with Dave. I was on the road with David Allan Coe. I didn't tour with him. I wasn't like part of his entourage. We played the same places. And also Confederate Railroad was another band I played with. Void Adventure says, I have a far-left Democrat friend, and he literally gets mad and calls me stupid and begins to try gaslighting me. I pretend to fold, but just as I can't, he can't change my opinion on things. Well, listen, that don't sound like a friend to me, Void. That sounds like somebody's using you for something that you provide for him. If your friend calls you stupid and means it, that's not a friend. I would question your friendship. What reason are you friends? No, you don't have to agree to be friends. Me and Fab Daddy disagree on just about everything, but he's a good person, and I back him up. And he backs me up so far. That's the way it should be. But if your friendship is only built on social things, that might not be a good friend. If your friendship is built on something deeper than social stuff, then it might be worth continuing that friendship. But don't let him call you stupid. You show him how smart you are. You have a right in this world to stand on your 2 feet and be a man, just like that guy does. And if he can't agree with that, it's not a very thoughtful person. It doesn't matter if you guys agree. He can't call you stupid. Aaron says, they private DM me was the same person. Really? You got private DM'd? Amy says, I think it was David Allan Coe. I'm not sure. Yes, it was David Allan Coe. Amanda says, who DM'd you, Aaron? Aaron says, Will or Payne? Probably the same person. Amanda says, yes, Amy, correct. David Allan Coe and a few others. Yes, but right now, because of COVID, I have lost my voice. A few years ago, I got the big COVID when it was going around the first time, and it damaged my vocal cords in some kind of way, and I have not recovered from it. Now, every year about this time, I lose my voice, which is what you're hearing now. It isn't always this way. I do come back during the colder months, but during the hot months, I'm usually without voice, and also I'm having arthritis issues, so my ability is leaving me as we currently speak. However, if you would like to hear some of my music, I will gladly play you a song. Just let me know. I have some ready to go. Amanda says, oh, wow, what did they say? Aaron says, nothing worth repeating. Amy says, his voice is recovering since he had long COVID, and maybe he'll play Elizabeth for you. It's my favorite song. Oh, thank you, Amy. Well, here you go, just for you guys. This is a Jake Johnson original song. I hope you enjoy it.
Moonlit skies and fireworks, people laugh, people flirt all night long. But I just stare. So I drove down to the local bar where people come in their fancy cars to play their games. But I just stare. Then I saw you sitting there all alone in that empty chair right next to you. I fell in love, oh baby. You looked down and you took my hand. You said, boy, I hope you understand that I'm not a girl that needs a man. I got my life and all my plans, and if you were there, you'd just be in my way. Girl, it ain't gotta be like this. I'd give you everything but just one kiss, and I don't care what you say. I fell in love with you anyway. Oh, Elizabeth, you take my breath away. At that bar where we first met, you smiled at me and my palms got wet, and you just looked away. But I just stayed. You said, been in love and it never works. I always end up getting hurt, and I ain't doing that no more. There ain't no way. Oh no, 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 no. You stood up to say goodbye, grabbed your hand with a tear in my eye, and I just walked away. But you just stayed. But you looked down and you took my hand and said, boy, I hope you understand that I'm not a girl that needs a man. I got my life and all my plans, and if you were there, you'd just be in my way. Girl, it ain't gotta be like this. I'd give you everything but just one kiss, and I don't care what you say. I fell in love with you anyway. Oh, Elizabeth, you take my breath away.
All right. That was an original song called Elizabeth. That's me and me and me and my drummer. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to hear more music, I have pinned a link at the top of the chat. That is a link to my album Bootlegged. It is free. You can download it or listen to the songs right there on Google Drive. It's entirely up to you. The only thing I ask in return is that you share that music with a friend. If you go download it, let somebody hear it while you're listening to it, or send it to somebody who wants to hear it. It's free. Spread it around. I appreciate you. Void Adventure says, we already saved $2 trillion. Right on. Sue says, oh, okay, cool, Amy. What kind of music? All kinds of music. I play just about every instrument. I used to sing, Can't really sing anymore, but I'm working on that. And I play all kinds of music. I'm a, what do you call it, freelance musician. So I go play with many bands and just sit in whatever instrument they need. I go play it. And I also have my own band, which is currently on hiatus because of the voice problem. So right now, the only time I play out is if I'm playing with somebody else. So if you want to hear that song, download it. It's yours. It's free. I give it my gift to you. I did a lot of work in that album. There's a lot of work. It's 20 years of my life wrapped up in that thing. So enjoy. Walter says Congress is opposed to Doge. Go figure. The Omni Party doesn't want its funding cut. Right on. Aaron says he's saying it from the parking lot of our chat. So F him. Right on. Aaron says back to politics. Right on. Bill Bennett says Doge found and exposed Trump administration is great. The House and Senate and the rest of the government sucks. I agree. Amy, it's going to take a while to get those neocons and rhinos and Democrats that really don't care about nothing. It's going to take a while to get them all out, if we can even do that. The deep state, they're dug in like ticks. We may or may not be able to solve that problem, but he's trying. Amy says, how did he know how to find you on Facebook to message you? Strange. Do you have a stalker, Aaron? He probably looked up his profile here by clicking on his name and going to profile, and then probably used that name on Facebook. Pardon me. I'm losing my voice bad. Fab Daddy says, someone bombed the fertility clinic in Palm Springs today. That's terrible. Fertility clinic or anti-fertility clinic? I'm guessing fertility clinic because they don't usually bomb the bad guys. That's like bad presidents never get shot. Amanda says, LOL, yep, Aaron. And if they come back, they will get going again. Right on. Aaron says, Amy is not hard. It's not hard to find me on Facebook. Amy says, oh, okay, stay safe, Aaron. Void Adventure says, if Trump lied about his campaign policies, then his comment isn't here. Almost half of his policies are in place after 100 days. Right on. Sue says, Fab, I saw that. It looks bad. Aaron says, Amy, I'm all good, military trained. I mind my business. Right on, Aaron. Sue says, New Jersey Jomo Old. I don't know what that means. I think that's what that says. NJ Jomo Old. That must be another language. Christine says, yeah, really sad. 1 dead, 4 injured. I hate to hear that. I really hate to hear that. God bless the people that were injured. And may his touch be on all involved. Sue says, that's my cockatoo. She occasionally joins on chats. Ask Amy about it. Gotcha. So the bird typed that. Got it. Fab Daddy says, I want to know if Jake ever went to a P. Diddy freak-off. Wouldn't you like to know? That would be wildly out of character if I did. Amy says, Lyric walks across Sue's keyboard. I'm guessing the bird's name is Lyric. Nice. Christine Marshall said hi. Aaron says, I had a cockatoo named Charlie Chaplin because he walked like that. I got it. Void says, everyone Everyone thought I was crazy whenever I said that the Gulf of Mexico should be Gulf of America. I am the only one to think that pre-Biden, pre-Obama, I was 5. Nope, but it happened. Right on. Amanda says, no, he didn't, Fab. He makes his own freaky. Fab Daddy says, LOL. And Aaron says, he used to wolf whistle at my mom. Who did? Oh, your bird. Got it. What is a wolf whistle? Amy says, did he use baby oil? Jake's a real man. He uses motor oil. Yes. Motor oil, jumper cables, and a saddle, baby. Sue says, Aaron, I have an umbrella named Lyric. She likes to push her way in front of me, but she likes to push her way in front of me to get me to only give her attention. Right on. Yep, most animals are like that. My dog is like that. If I'm doing anything, she wants to be right in between my fingers. She'll jump up my lap, between my legs, under my feet, anything. Heaven forbid I open a bag of cookies. That dog will go crazy. Amanda says, LOL, Amy. Hawk tooey. Sometimes you got to spit on that thing. Aaron says, what's a lyric? Lyric is her bird's name, says Amy Elizabeth. Aaron says, they have a bird called Umbrella. Cool. Sue says, Aaron, like song lyrics or the words to a song. I named my cockatoo because she has her own song. Nice. Amy says, Umbrella cockatoo. Got it. Aaron says, oh, I'm so dumb. No, you're not. Thanks for explaining. Amy says, Aaron, no, you're not. Stop it. Not dumb. Sue says, umbrellas are a type of cockatoo. Cockatoos are a type of parrot found in south of the equator. Parrots are birds with hard hooked beaks and feet with 2 toes forward and 1 toe backwards. Or 2 toes backwards. Really? 2 forward, 2 backwards? That's weird. Debbie says survivor benefits is a $200 one-time payment, and then there's survivor benefits for widows and children under 18. Widows have to be 60 before they get the benefits. Okay. Thank you for explaining that, Debbie. Aaron says, I think my bird was that. And thanks, Debbie, says Amy. Aaron says, had a thing on its head and it would stand up. Cool. Amy says, I have a few years yet to gather the paperwork. Aaron says, it made this awful noise like a cockatoo. Sue says, umbrella cockatoos are white with yellow underneath. The feathers on their head lay flat unless they are expressing themselves, and then those feathers open up like an umbrella, thus the name. Interesting. Fab Daddy says, I also think stopping the 9/11 survivors' benefits is a travesty of epic evilness. Well, who did that? And why was it done? And is there more to the story than just what it's called? I mean, that was a long time ago, so. Aaron says, yep, I had a white one with red ear spots and yellow cheeks. Nice. Sue says, Aaron, sounds like you had a cockatiel. Walter says, Jake, did you ever see that movie, Alone in the T-Shirt Zone? I don't think I have. It sounds like I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not real sure about that. I will look into it, though. Alone in the T-Shirt Zone. Christine says, Trump named it the Gulf of America because Biden pushed solid legislation to kill offshore oil drilling. Gulf of Mexico was one of the places. So Gulf of America is drill, baby, drill. That makes sense. Also, that is an explanation of why he did that. Because that was my thought. Who cares? It's been the Gulf of Mexico forever. Who cares? Now it makes sense. Amy Elizabeth says, my son is watching Family Guy. I love that show. I love the dry sarcasm of that show. I am a sarcasm fan, in case you haven't noticed. Aaron says, you're right, Sue. And Sue says, I know birds. I volunteer for an avian sanctuary. Well, if they would come in legally, we wouldn't have to have sanctuary aviaries. It's a joke, sorry. Christine says, Biden didn't know half of what he was signing, and we can't trust most of what he said and done. But we are moving along legally quite nicely, I feel. I agree with that. Most of what he signed, he didn't sign. His auto pen signed, and it's probably a staffer that was doing it. So who knows what he agreed to? Y'all saw that thing where the guy came in and said, Mr. President, why did you sign so-and-so? And he says, I didn't sign that. And he goes, yeah, you did. He goes, no, I didn't. He said, well, this is what it was. And he goes, oh, that was a thing boycotting that sort of thing. He goes, would you like for me to get your secretary in here to repeat what you signed? You did sign it. He didn't even know. So, yeah. Fab Daddy says, Sue, are you concerned about bird flu? Why would you be concerned about bird flu? Aaron says, Will was insulting mods directly. Not a good look. I agree. Well, you did the right thing, and I won't question you. You got that wrench for a reason. I trust you. Amanda says, I want an African gray, but Jake says, hell no. Birds are not my thing. I didn't want the little dog. Be glad you got that. Sue says, Fab, no. Aaron says, Sue, that's really cool. You have a big brain. You fit right in here, Sue. Walter says, Sue dug deep and find out who all the funding for the avian group comes from. Usually it goes back to the UN. Interesting. Sue says, I once had an African gray. He'd say, let's go see Sue, when he wanted to be with me. Aw. My aunt had an African gray. She probably still has it. I think they live like 20 years, don't they? Pretty long-winded bird. Anyway, she had one named Max, and I grew up watching that bird. It's a mean bird. Amy Bordeaux says, have a great night, everybody. Well, good night, Amy. Thank you for being here. God bless you, sweetheart. Come back and see us tomorrow night. Heart. Aaron says, what's an African gray? Is that a macaw? I think so, but I'm not sure about that. It's a parrot of some kind, but it's got like black lines in it, and it's gray and has a white face, or at least the one I know about does. It's a big bird, too. I think it's about a foot tall, that bird. Amy says, Amy B, we're not done yet, but have a good night. Aaron says, Amy B, your house is beautiful. Aw. Aaron says, it's a parrot, Aaron. Amanda says, it's a parrot, Aaron. I'm not having a stroke. I can read. Amanda says, very intelligent parrot. Aaron says, horse? Your horse is beautiful. Got it. Sue says, Aaron, they are a type of parrot. Macaws are bigger and different type of parrot. Got it. Aaron says, I like those. Amy says, I like chicken. Me too. Yeah, parrots, they don't fill you up very much. But you can use their little legs as tweezers. Pick between your teeth. Not tweezers, toothpicks. Bad joke, sorry. Aaron says, I have wild ones. You have wild macaws where you live? That's cool. I lived in a place in Florida on Fort Lauderdale Lane, right across from the beach. It was a motel stuck between two other motels. It was a 2-story outdoor type motel with the doors on the outside and there's a walkway. Anyway, they had monkeys that would come into your room and steal things all day long. Little tiny spider monkeys. all over the place. I'd never seen that before in the wild. They were just everywhere. They'd like run up and down the power lines and stuff. Void says, did y'all know that St. Louis had a mile-wide tornado yesterday? I didn't know it was that big, but I knew they had one, yeah. That's crazy. Aaron says, LOL, cook Tweety. Amy says, my chickens were my pets. Right on. Void Adventure says, had. Yeah, they had a tornado. Amy says, chicken, I had 8 of them. I'm thinking about getting some chickens myself. About time to do something like that. I got a chicken coop. Might as well put some chickens in it. Fab Daddy says, yes, Void, it was devastating. Sue says, Aaron, macaws are beautiful, colorful birds. Big birds. I like them too. Did you know the red ones smell like Fruit Loops? Follow your nose. Maybe that's why they're the Fruit Loop. No, that's a toucan, ain't it? Anyway, Amy says, Void, we had tornadoes in Indiana yesterday too. It was terrible. Aaron says, or milk. They smell like milk, baby. Amy smiles. Aaron says, Michigan had them too. It leveled my brother's land. I'm sorry to hear that. Is your brother okay? Fab Daddy says, only white immigrants are given a fast track to citizenship. Not true. Only South African immigrants are. Has nothing to do with them being white. It has to do with them being oppressed currently. And there's a political reason behind all that I'm not real familiar with. I know there's a lot going on over there right now involving their country. There's more to it than what you're saying. It has nothing to do with them being white. Don't race bait. Aaron says, Sue says, is that why it feels like violence is escalating all over lately? It's race baiting is why that is. Void says, Fab Daddy, that's only because the majority of immigrants are white. If they were tan or green, it'd be true for them too. Not trying to change your opinion or shame it. I'm just countering it, balancing it. Sharon Taylor says, sure, Fab, sure. This comment irritates me to the max. 20 million immigrants to 59 seems racist to me. Right. So you're saying 59 South Africans came over and you're calling that racist? Patty says he was stealing. Who was stealing? Keep it simple, says Patty. Who are we talking about? Patty says, Aaron says, I've stole, but I'm not dead. True. You got lucky. But that goes for everybody that steals. It's against the law. It's against the commandments. And if you do it, you're in the wrong. Doesn't matter who you are. Christine Marshall says, many people under harsh conditions and situations have always been protected by American. But because they are white, some people have a problem with it. False statement to say fast-tracked. Right. Yet, I don't think immigration has anything to do with color, or it shouldn't. By the way, there's a difference between immigration and illegal immigration. An illegal immigrant jumps the border. An immigrant comes through the proper channels and does the right stuff. There's a difference. Doesn't matter what color you are, illegal immigration is wrong and should not happen. Our government's main job is to keep our borders secure from things like that. Void Adventure says, someone told me, a Democrat, that he escaped a prison and was armed. I don't believe he was an escapee, but if he had a knife or something, yeah, I get it. But nah, don't believe that. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I agree with you. Aaron says, both sides, no good. True. I'm assuming we're still talking about the George Floyd thing. Yeah, we've established that it was a bad day all the way around for everybody involved. And Julian, welcome to the show. Thanks for the subscription. Void says, I don't know a cop that shoots for a knife. Well, unfortunately, in a situation where a shooting occurs, there's not a lot of thinking going on. It's usually pretty quick, and it's a snap decision. And once you make that decision, you have to commit to it, or else why have a gun and why be put in that position? And then they have time to think about it later. And it's usually a rash decision. Fab Daddy says, almost all immigrants pay their own travel expenses to get here, whether through loans or out of their own pocket. But 60 white got DOD paid flights, no reimbursement. There's a reason for that, Fab Daddy. Richard Webb. You can't be talking like that, Richard. That'll get you kicked out of here fast. Sharon Tyler says, and you know this how? Right. How do you know this, Fab Daddy? Amy says, God makes good people in all shapes and sizes, and we need to lift people up, not break people down. Good people know him. Correct. Linda says, my son is an ex-medic, and he works night shift, so he is usually called for the serious shootings, knifings, and domestics. Plus, he is built like a brick shithouse. Well, hopefully, he's good at his job, and hopefully he can stay safe while doing it. Kevin says, Fab Daddy, you really need to turn off that TV. You sound foolish. Amy says, Richard, be respectful in here or leave. That's coming from Amy, and she's very nice. So watch your mouth. If you do that again, I'll ban you. Amanda says, hi, Richard, be careful what you say. We are not racist and don't allow it here. And Fab Daddy says, speaking of escaped convicts, Louisiana just had a bunch escape. Escape what? A prison in Louisiana? Amanda says, we're not a cult here. We are a family. The Kool-Aid drinking kind, you know. Put your shoes on and come here. Void Adventure says, okay, yeah, Fab. I get your position on it then. Yep. And they were flowing like water during the Biden administration. Not even gonna name it. But it was the last administration and the president's name started with a B. Yeah, you remember all those immigrants? They kind of got fast-tracked too, wouldn't you say? Amy says, Mr. Webb, if you're looking for a cult, find Jim Jones or, you know, any leftist within your vicinity. Amanda says, Kevin, that's the problem. He watches too much CNN or MSDNC. Void Adventure says, what's a cultist, Richard? Apparently a person who's in a cult. And apparently having a conversation means you're in a cult. Especially one that has diverse ideas being espoused. And Void says, define it for me. What is a cultist? Do you even know? Sue Wood says, Richard, learn what a cult is. Right on. Void Adventure says, Richard, a cult, define a cult for me. And by the way, I told you already about that language. Stop it. There's a lot of ladies in here. You're going to stop talking like that, or you're going to find somewhere else to be. Amy says, I removed him because he was repeating himself. Good. Amanda says, booted him for being disgusting. Void says, Richard, I hope you find what a cult is because you're probably a part of one called the Far-Right Democrat Party. Or left. And Void Adventure says, oh. Aaron says, he spilled his Kool-Aid on his way out. Sue says, I was actually part of a real cult once that caused me physical harm. They are serious and not a joke. Amy says, thanks, Amanda. He was a little disgusting. Void says, what did Richard do? He said some things he shouldn't have said. Patty says, I thought he got violent on them. I don't know. Aaron says, I'm sorry, Sue. Awful. Yep, sorry you were in a cult. That's terrible. I'm glad you got out of it. Amanda says, we booted him for saying disgusting things. Linda says, Fab, it took my family almost 5 years to immigrate legally. Amy says, Void, he was spamming the chat by repeating the same comment over and over. Christine says, all the transportation was done by the government, and they gave them housing, food benefits, $5,000 debit cards free, fast track to inundate the American workforce with these aliens. Must be talking about the border jumpers. Yep. Void says, oh. Aaron says, I like your name, Void. Amy says, he said it at least 3 times. Yeah, he did. Christine says, they even gave them cell phones, Fab. Wow. Yeah, them South Africans didn't get cell phones, did they? They're probably iPhones, too. Void says, thanks, Aaron. Aaron says, hugs. Captain Anonymous says, sir, what do you do on YouTube? You see it. I talk. Lots of talking. Welcome to the show, Captain Anonymous. I like your name, too. Sue says, how long does this go for? Till I get to the bottom of the chat, usually. If it makes it to midnight, I'll cut it off. But I'm hoping we get to the bottom or get close to the bottom before then. I have no idea how far behind I am, though. But I know I'm behind. But most of the time, by the way, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually an hour and a half, 2 hours max. Saturday gets a little crazy. Amanda says, hi, Captain, welcome. I work for my money, though, believe that. What little donations I get, I put a lot of effort into them. Amanda says, hi, Captain, welcome. Amy says, hi, Captain, welcome. Aaron says, until he reaches the bottom. Or until I run out of breath. Amanda says, a couple of hours, usually try to stop about 10. But Saturday goes late sometimes. Right on. Christine said hi. And thanks, says Captain Anonymous. Smiley face. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Captain. Aaron says, my high bottom work now, Marshall. My high button works now, Marshall. Ah. Is that what it is? You could say hi to other people? Is that what that does? I'm not sure. Amy says, Captain Anonymous, just curious. Are you related to Captain Obvious or Captain Crunch? Captain Morgan? Just messing with you. I joke around a lot. I was going to say Captain Amazing. Amanda says, how do you do it, Aaron? How do you hit that? How do you do that hi button? Sue says, Amy, maybe it's Captain Jack Sparrow. Hi. Aaron says, it will say hi in chat and turn white. Aaron says, it pops up in your comment box. Okay. Amanda says, oh, mine don't do that. Amy says, I like Jack Sparrow. Aaron says, it will. It's like a white wavy hand, and it says hi in clear letters. You have to press a button or something? I don't know. Amy says, 2 years training to become a barber, 6 months to be a cop. That's my point. Amanda says, I don't have it. Aaron says, they should have at least the training of the National Guard. I agree. I think they should have at least a year training, and half of that should be combat, and the other half should be gun training. And they should have school before they even apply. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Aaron says, cops should have training that the National Guard has. Christine says, ha ha ha, thumbs up, Aaron. Amy says, magic coffee cup refills itself. Yes, it does. That's how far behind I am? Yeah, I might have to cut it off at midnight. Aaron says, thank you, Christine. Bill says, good night all. See you all tomorrow for Bible study. Bill, God bless you, sir. Thank you for being here. Have a good night's rest, and we'll see you tomorrow. Amanda says, you know it, Amy. Kevin says, good night, Bill. Amanda says, good night, Bill. Amy says, night, Bill. See you tomorrow. Aaron says, thank you for your time, Bill. Christine Marshall says, good night, Bill. Debbie says, I would agree with Fab Daddy, but then we would both be wrong. Ha ha ha. Just kidding, you Fabby Daddy. Patty says, good night, all prayers. Patty, God bless you, sweetheart. Thank you for being here. Thank you for enduring tonight. I enjoyed it with you. I'll see you tomorrow night. God bless you. Amy says, night, Patty. Amanda says, night, Patty. Christine says, good night, Patty. And then my chat jumped. All right. Christine says, good night, Patty. Kevin says, good night, Patty. Pro Tax Evader says, remember to evade your taxes. You hear it. Welcome, Pro. Amy says, potty break. Right on. Amanda says, hi, Pro. Welcome. Fab Daddy says, imagine Pro saying that in a voice of Darth Vader from Star Wars. Remember to evade your taxes. I'm not your father. He says, Fab, smiley face. Amy says, rump roast in a cockpit is delicious. Crockpot in a crockpot is delicious. Rump roast in a crockpot. That sounds good. Yes, Amy, says Amanda. Ghost says the IRS is watching. Let them watch. Amanda says, hi, Ghost. Welcome. Ghost says, salutations. Welcome to the show. Come on in, take your shoes off. Amy says, Ghost and Pro Taxes need to have a beer together. Right on. Aaron says, we have lots of new people. So cool. Please hit that like button, everybody. Like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chats are available in the chat box. Thank you very much. Also, hit that CashApp $ Jake Johnson Band if you really love me. Fab Daddy says, Ghost has an older channel and Pro is probably a sock account. As long as it works. Amy says, Fab, what's a sock account? I want a glove account, but one of those gloves that have the fingers cut out, you know, the kind with the Velcro strap, so I can be like, hee hee. I want one of those. Christine says, yeah, tariffs were there originally, which weren't exactly successful globally, at least. But I was referring to the reciprocal tariffs that was smooth as butter. Right on. Fab Daddy says, it's an account made to troll. Ah. Amy says, oh, okay, thanks. Trolls starve if they are ignored. VillaTube says, Trump is the greatest American alive. That's high praise, VillaTube. Welcome. Amanda says, hi. Amy says, sock account. I picture Mick Foley with Mr. Socko. Aaron said, hi. See, Amanda? Amanda says, yeah, but mine won't do it. No biggie, LOL. Fab Daddy says, 2 and 5. I'm zipping my fingers for the night. but I will be watching and monitoring. Fab Daddy, God bless you, sir. Have a good night's rest. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the discourse, and thanks for the pushback. I love you, brother. Have a good night. See you tomorrow night. Amanda says, good night, Fab. Amy says, thanks for the conversation, Fab. Have a good night. Linda says, love you, Fab. Good night. Aaron says, thank you for the cool facts, Fab Daddy. You know a lot. Christine Marshall says, I like that Kid Rock song, Jake. Ha ha ha. Da ba da ba. I like to do things people don't expect me to do. Aaron says, are you on a phone, Amanda? Try it on your phone. Amanda says, 2 phones, 1 laptop, and 2 tablets. Amy says, and a TV. Amy says, and a partridge in a pear tree. Patty says, wow, Jake. Coming in sounding like a kid and shouting, sounding good doing it. Good on you. Want to be a cowboy, baby. That's good stuff. I like that song, too. I used to do that song. I can't remember it now, but I used to do it. Amanda says, LOL, Amy. Amy says, I have a PhD. Pentecostal hairdo. Is that like a beehive? One of those big bunny things? Amanda says, cause everything's bullshit. Christine says, Amy, smiley face. TG says, where do you get your information from? And if you're a misanthropic, you wouldn't be here spouting your nonsense and engaging with other people. Get your news from other countries about Trump. Hey, I get my news from all over the world, and you don't understand what a misanthrope is. Clearly. I am misanthropic. You don't know me. Amanda says, TG, rude much? Yeah, you're preaching to the wrong choir here, TG. Read the room, buddy. Christine said hi. Amy says, smiley, smiley, smiley. Eric the Great says, enough children who never smoked have died from cancer for you to figure out the reason why EMF bed canopies are made and the respected sleep in bunkers. That sounds incredibly off topic, but thank you. Eric says, RFK Jr. talked about cell phone radiation, but failed to mention anything important. You don't think cell phone radiation is important? When your research tells you inhumane EMF levels does not cause cancer, but the side effects do, you should immediately know something is wrong. I agree, 100%. That's why my phone's over there, not against my head. Amy says, yummy, RFK Jr. doing shirtless push-ups. He is built to be a 60-year-old plus man, huh? Linda says, good night, all. I'll be listening. See y'all tomorrow for Bible study. Linda, God bless you, sweetheart. I love you. Thank you for being here. You are the light of our channel. We love you and see you tomorrow night. Amy says, good night, Linda. Amanda says, good night, Linda. Christine says, we already know the news on all the countries, TG. Trump just had them at the table. Amy says, yep, Jake, and Jonah wasn't swallowed by a whale. It was a big fish. I agree. Christine Marshall says, good night. And by the way, he died. That's something they don't teach you. They teach you that he spent 3 days in the belly of the whale, like that cartoon with the guy with the match, you know? Some sink, float by. No, he died. He was resurrected, which is why Christ pointed to it and said, that's the only sign you're going to get of who I am. Because just like him, I'm going to die and be resurrected in 3 days. And while I'm gone, I'm going to be doing some stuff. That's the kind of thing I teach. Christine says, good night, Linda. Eric the Great says, what does that help? What does what help? Amy says, message retracted. Eric the Great says, thinking 3-way. I'm thinking 4-way, buddy. How about you? Eric says, Lamau. Amy says, humor is my coping mechanism, Eric. Eric says, ignorance is bliss and not considered abusive, so that's miserable or lonely for anyone struggling. How about that? Eric says, good luck out there. Thank you. Christine Marshall says, and Jonah had brown skin, and the acid in the whale's stomach turned his skin pigmentation white. Really? I didn't read that. So Jonah pulled a Michael Jackson, says Aaron. Jonah was thinking he was in that whale with the little match, watching the sink float by, saying, how can I make this a racial issue? I know. We'll teach those Ninevehans. Amanda says, fish spit. Sorry, Amy says, fish spit. Ha ha. Amanda says, LOL, Aaron and Amy. Amy says, hee, moonwalk. Eric says, everyone either has Biden or Trump for a brain. Seems that way, doesn't it, Eric? Aaron says, that whale hawk-toed. Amy's cracking up. Amanda says, LOL, Aaron. Fab Daddy says, no. Aaron says, Jake has a sock. I don't know what that is. Looks like a sock. And Elvis. Or Jake shoots Elvis. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's an old-timey gun. A Derringer. I don't know what that is. Amanda says, cheating Fab. Fab Daddy says, oops, fingers unzipped for Elizabeth. Thank you, Fab Daddy. And thank you guys for, I hope you enjoyed the song. Sway into the song, says Amy. Thank you. And Amanda says, sing it along. Thank you. LOL, Fab Daddy. Christine says, a unique fact about Jonah's story is the ruler Jonah returned to talk to let him go because he recognized his God, because he was the Pharaoh of Egypt, who God was revealed through Moses and more. Well, that's funny. I thought Jonah went to Nineveh. Amanda says, fell in love with you anyway. I think Fab Daddy beat you on the all, though. He got you. Amanda says, oh, no, but you're late. I get all the kisses. Yes, you do. Amy says, thanks, Jake, for playing the song. My pleasure, and thank you for listening and asking for it. Makes my heart feel good when you like my song. Amanda says, Jake's album is pinned at the top for a download if anybody's interested. Please do. It's free. It's yours. The only thing I ask in return is that you share it with someone else if you download it. Christine says, awesome. You're welcome. Amy says, it's been a while since we've heard Elizabeth. You can't say that anymore. Countdown 0. Time to last incident 0. Amanda says, LOL, Amy, I hear it all the time. Amy says, it's getting late. I'm ending on that awesome song. Good night, y'all. See you for your Bible study tomorrow. Amy, God bless you, sweetheart. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your humor and all your levity and all your wisdom. And we love you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Sleep well tonight. Amanda says, good night, Amy. Christine says, good night, Amy. Aaron says, wolf whistle is like a cat call whistle. Like, wee. Okay. Aaron says, does my comment make sense? Sort of. Amanda says, I guess. Still don't know what sound, unless you mean a cat call like a cat call in heat, meowing. I think he means like, hey, baby, come here. Don't you want a real man? I think he means that. Look at that ass. That kind of thing. Crazy bird. Christine says, and if these Republican rhinos want to oppose Trump's big, beautiful deal, we will vote you out in 2026. Amen, Christine. Christine says, we don't need any Dems. We have enough Republicans to pass it. It's bullshit. Right on. Aaron says, LOL. No, like if a woman walks by, the whistle a guy does is a wolf whistle. See, I was right. I knew I was right. Aaron says, they have wild monkeys too. Amanda says, oh, okay. LOL, Aaron. Aaron says, yes, they are bad as hell. The monkey flipping poop. The monkeys fling poop. I never saw him do that, but I did see him come into my room and steal shiny things. Christine says, I'm lost, Aaron. Talking about monkey poop. Amanda says, yes, and they will screw you if they can. They'll try. Monkeys are horny little bastards. Zong40 says, oppressed by who? I don't know. Boers are not native. Okay. They do not belong. Who are you talking about, Zom? Christine says, oh, I get it, LOL. Thanks for the subscription, Julian. Eric the Great says, Akbar and Barak have the same numerical value. Interesting. Also, one of the horses of the apocalypse, the 4 horsemen, one of the horses is named Barak. Interesting. Eric the Great says, it only gets worse. I know. Americans are the type of people that grow marijuana indoors just to complain about power outages or fires created by them and dead firemen. Some of them are, not all of them. I don't grow any marijuana indoors. Kevin says, gonna call it a night. Good night, everyone. Kevin Bernard, thank you for being here. God bless you, sir. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night, sir. Amanda says, good night, Kevin. Aaron says, hello, Eric. Debbie says, Fab Daddy researched genocide in South Africa, and when you read the article, remember the mainstream media also said Hunter's laptop was disinformation. Christine says, your chat's about to jump and leave you lost. Barry Sorrento, or Sartoro, Barry Sartoro was a CIA agent, codename Renegade, who was Obama. Barack Obama's white grandfather was the head of the CIA. I don't doubt that. And thank you for subscribing, Elliot Landers. Thank you for coming on board. See you on the next show. Aaron says, Amanda, the high pops up under the stream elements. Oh, you got stream elements. That makes sense. Amanda says, still don't see it. You don't have stream elements is probably why. Aaron says, it's a wavy hand that says hi in live chat. Amanda says, well, have fun with it because I can't see it. Aaron says, it does nothing. Said hi. Just this. It's stupid. Yeah, you could just write, said hi. Christine says, God commanded the fish to vomit Jonah out onto dry land, so the story concludes with Jonah being released from the belly of the large fish. Doesn't it conclude with him going and talking to the Ninevians and having them convert because they wanted to hear the message? I'm pretty sure that's how it ends. He saved Nineveh. Aaron says, was he dead? Yes, he was very much dead. He got ate by a fish. Of course he was dead. He actually drowned on the way down. If you'll read the subtext of the story of Jonah, it's very poetic. And it uses visual imagery like him drifting down into the darkness and being wrapped up in the seaweed and his soul leaving his body. He literally died in the water. Then the fish ate him and regurgitated him 3 days later, and then he was resurrected by God. Much in the same way Christ was resurrected. Which is why Christ used him as an example of the only sign that people were going to get. The sign of Jonah is the sign you're looking for. Amanda says, we don't talk like that in here, Zena. See ya. Aaron says, peace and bye-bye. Amanda says, I was trying, Aaron. I hit the wrong one. LOL, good job. Aaron says, bark at the tree, you get the dog. Right on. I like that saying, bark at the tree, you get the dog. Amanda said, that's right. Christine says, Jonah went to Nineveh as God had originally commanded, and that ruler respected his message because he knew God because he was in Egypt as the Pharaoh. Interesting. Aaron says, Amanda says, bottom of the chat, I made it. All right, I'm exhausted and it's 12:12, so I'm going to bed. I enjoyed it tonight, guys. It was a wonderful conversation of many trolls, but we had 1,617 views tonight and 24 likes. If you hadn't hit that like button, please do. If you hadn't hit that super chat, please do. If you hadn't hit that subscribe or that share, please do. And we'll see you tomorrow night. God bless you all. Debbie says, woohoo, everyone can go to bed. Right on. Aaron says, go to sleep, Jake. I'm headed that way, buddy. Thank you for all your hard work tonight. And as all the moderators, thank you very much for keeping the chat peaceful and respectful and clean. It means the world to us all that we can have some modicum of a good conversation because of all your vigilance. Thank you for that. And tomorrow night's going to be Bible study, so it'll be a lot calmer. So until then, God bless you all and keep your politi-tics in your pants.